Uh, hello. Hello, party people. I'm really hoping that people can hear me. I haven't done this in a while. I'm on a new PC, so I'm really nervous that everything's just gonna go horribly, horribly wrong. I'm just gonna wait to see if people respond while I pour some delicious, delicious water for myself. Oh boy. Hope people like the sound of that. Hey Fluggy, how you doing? Oh man, it is too hot. Well, hey, am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Or am I just perfect? Like, like Symphony of the Night. Am I just perfect? That's gonna get some like. Well, actually, the second half of Symphony of the Night's really poorly designed. Gonna guess yes. Okay, so here is the crack. I'm gonna be just doing a bit of a chill out stream this evening because it's been 800 billion million years since I've actually done any streaming. I'm probably gonna disappoint everyone by saying that I'm not gonna play any computer games or anything, no Yakuza or whatever, as I haven't been able to get the my cousin's overclocked PlayStation 2 around. It definitely has nothing to do with my new PC. I just haven't been able to get set up my cousin's overclocked PlayStation 2 to play my authentic copy of Yakuza 2. But I don't know. Maybe if I feel up to it later on, I might play something. I mean, damn, what? I'm going to be talking about Resident Evil most of the evening because I played Resident Evil Village at launch. I do have that on my I do have that on my Steam, so I could always do that if people want to. But who knows? But because I'm going to be doing maybe a little bit of a different thing, actually going, and I really hope this works. I'm actually going to be showing my ugly mug. So hopefully, if everything's going okay and everything's worked out, people can probably now see my face. Fingers crossed. Look at the headroom on that. That is awful. Hang on. There we go. That's a bit better. Everyone can see my brilliant cat calendar in the background, maybe. That is just like... yeah, that's a thing. If people can just let me know that everything's working out, not an issue, then that would be fantabulous. I'm just going to type something real quick. I'm looking splendid today. Thank you very much, Fluggy. I feel like I look tired if I'm being perfectly honest. I've actually been traveling quite a bit. I've been pretty active recently, so I'm actually a very exhausted person right now. But yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I felt like I try to do these streams every once in a while because I don't want people to. What I found in the past is if the channel gets too quiet, people just assume I'm dead, which I'm not. Maybe I'm living the gimmick of like being a Castlevania focused channel. Like, you know, I'm like Dracula. Every couple hundred years, I just come back, do one thing, and then go away again. It's more just I take forever to like make videos and stuff, so you know. I acknowledge that, I own that. So yeah, we should also have Stephen up on the channel a little later on, so I am gonna wait for him a little bit. Anyone that somehow doesn't know who Stephen is, but knows who I am, Stephen is a friend of the channel, pretty much helps me with most of my videos in some capacity. He'd probably then be like, no I don't, you do everything, but like he's incredibly helpful for the channel, so you know. But yeah, he should be on later, and we're then gonna do the most YouTube thing I could possibly do, which is we're gonna talk about the Resident Evil franchise, but we're gonna do it in like a tier list kind of thing, because I was playing Resident Evil Village, I finished it, tweeted about how much I liked it, and then he was like, okay, does that mean it's the best one? I'm like, nah, not really. And then it kind of, I don't know, one thing led to another, and now I'm gonna do this. Anyone that is in the chat and has experience of Resident Evil, feel free to give me your kind of stories about it, because that's, if I'm being honest, at the moment, every time I've peeked onto the channel at the moment, I keep getting loads of comments of people just kind of sharing their stories with, like, in regards to like what Castlevania video I've done. So like at the moment there seems to be a lot of people that have come out to talk about like Dawn of Sorrow and how that was their first time like playing one of those games, because it came with their DS or things like that. So with the drip, I just look like a big like nerd right now with my Sonic T-shirt. My this is from a site called Insert Coin. This is reversible as well. It's awesome, actually. I will absolutely own this. So the other, so like it's like Leon, like RPD, and then the other side of it, I might, hang on, I'm gonna take it off because then I can just show people properly, because I love this jacket. I basically lived in it last year. So this side, Leon, RPD and all that stuff, and then the other side is reversible and it's Claire, so you know, made in heaven. And I have literally worn it to death. Yeah, I think it's actually getting a bit worn out on the Claire side, because for a while that was the side I had, just because it suits a bit more of the stuff I wear. So yeah. What else? Cool. Also, welcome to the stream, McPib. Valra, sound is A-OK. Awesome. Killer Cucumber, sound is A-OK. Sound is good to me. Brilliant. Fluggy, only played Resident Evil 5 and a little bit of 6. 5 wasn't that... 5 was a game that happened. It's alright. I think the problem with 5 is I had to follow Resident Evil 4. You know what I mean? Like, Resident Evil 4 was so good, and then it was like, you know, Shinji Mikami leaves, most of, I imagine, his team kind of left with him, and I think Capcom then just took another team up and were like, do it again. It's like, we don't know, that was a really well made game. I don't know if we can do it again. We're all big nerds. It's a Castlevania retrospect. You're right. I am hoping to branch out a little. It is important to note I have made other videos separate to Castlevania, but Castlevania has been the main focus. I think I've said it a couple of times already, but eventually, touch my wood, I will be done with Eagavania this year, and I will move on to other stuff. Had a good time with 5's Cup, and yeah, I would say that, like, that's the thing with both 5 and 6. I think they are weaker games, but they're really fun when you play them co-op. They're not scary. I wouldn't say they're scary in the least. I think my problem with 5 more than anything is like it. How would I put it? It doesn't get really fun until way later in that game, where it gets stupid. Like, as soon as it's like as soon as like Wesker shows up is always the bit I remember it being like, oh, okay, the game's fun now, because suddenly like it just starts getting really silly. Like you know, you start having these over the top fights of Wesker, or you're like on the boat, and there's a bit where you just have to fire a satellite cannon at stuff, and like it just gets really, really stupid and over the top, and it's like the right kind of stupid to me. Like, you know, that game ends with you fighting in a fucking volcano, and like, you know, the most infamous thing I think of Chris like just bodying a boulder with his bare fists. Which I remember when Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out, and like the promotional kind of trailer came out, they had Chris fighting the Hulk, and people were like, ain't no way that Chris Redfield can body the Hulk. And I remember like being like, nah, have you seen him with that boulder? He can beat the Hulk up. Definitely. No problem. Resident Evil 6, I think, you know, I almost think that works better as a co-op game than Resident Evil 5 did, because it's not trying to stick with it's not trying to stick to the Resident Evil 4 formula and just kind of went all out on like, all right, we're just going to make a really fluid action game. But you know, it's really bloated. Like there was a bit, you know, like the new Resident Evil is called like Resident Evil Village, and then there was a lot of like chat, like there was a lot of, oh, hello, my cat's here. Boulder for Smash Bros. Absolutely, why not? There could be like a accumulation of boulders, right? Famous video game boulders. Like, so you got the one that Chris Redfield beats up. You got the boulder that you run away from in Sonic Heroes. You know, the boulder that can kill you in Resident Evil 1 as well. Like, just like one of those ones. You know, what other good boulders were there in video games? We should do that now. I'll make a top 10 video. It'll be just top 10 boulders in computer games. No, number 2, those set of boulders at the start of Demon's Souls that you just smack the trap on and kill like multiple dudes with. Great boulder. Helps you. You know, number 1 would probably be like the Tomb Raider boulders, because like they definitely set the trend. What was I talking about again? I was talking about Resident Evil 6, wasn't I? Yeah, 6 is kind of like, I think that's kind of like Capcom working out what they want to do with Resident Evil a little bit. You know, because they got like 5,000 campaigns in that game. You got like the Leon one. It's like the closest thing to being a horror game. You got the Jake one. That's kind of like just a mashup of stuff. Like, it's got the Ustanuk. That's basically like, again, you know the meme that's like, I want this, Mum, I want this. We got this at home. This at home. That's Ustanuk. Pib is off to the gym. Enjoy the gym. Hopefully you get as buff as Chris Redfield did. But but yeah, like, you know, that's kind of like, Ustanuk is basically like Diet Coke Nemesis, I suppose. But like that bit has some high points and some really low points. I remember there's like a really forced stealth section or something like that if you play as Sherry. It's like utterly boring. And then, you know, you've got the Chris chapter, which in a way is probably the most retroactively thinking, if I'm being honest with myself, that's probably the most fun part of Resident Evil 6 is that bit, because it's just the most like embracing kind of silliness. Oh, and Steve appears to be ready now. I'm gonna give him a cheeky cooler, Mo. Let's find out. I need like a dramatic drum roll or something, don't I? For Steven. Or Steve. I'm just gonna call him Steve. I think I'm good to call him. I'm gonna call him now. I'm using Discord, so get ready for Discord sounds. And fingers crossed, this now works.
Wait a minute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Let me check that you're actually coming up on my side.
Yeah, let's find out.
All right. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I think people can hear you. Let me just check the chat.
Who's this?
Can they hear? You're breaking up. What are you saying?
I said there's someone in my chat that's asked who's this hip hop happening dude on my screen because I got my webcam on.
Oh shit! I can't even. I think I saw it a second ago. I can't check it properly. They can hear. They can hear. The people in the chat can hear.
Woo. Woo.
I have.
Let's go.
All right.
So are you streaming at the same time?
Yeah.
Damn! This is hype.
Double stream.
Cool. Hello, people on Steve's stream.
How's it going? This is my friend Fox. He's been on the channel before. Long-time friend of the show.
I've already explained who you are to my channel.
Well, hopefully they know because I can't see your chat, so I imagine
you're bigger than me, so they probably already are like, yeah, we know this guy. This is like the real YouTuber, not this other weirdo.
Listen, when it comes to YouTubers, they're all fucking losers. Let's
Loser brigade, let's go.
Fuck's sake.
If people on my stream can just let me know if you can actually hear Steven, just a thumbs up or anything like that, greatly appreciated.
Yeah, they should be able to tell you. Apparently, they can hear on your side because I got the call connected to my audio, so you should be there. Do you have a tier list ready? Do you have the thing?
I do indeed have a tier list. So it's
gonna be I've got to figure out how to share that on my screen. I need to get it like a little.
You may want to just like take the link that I've got of it.
Okay. Let me look.
Bang it into your stream and then just go from there.
Yeah, we could just do it. We could just do it that way. Yeah. So all right, I got to figure out is there an easy way for me to? But this is the boomer brigade here. How do I? Is there an easy way for me to share a website without sharing my whole screen? Can I do that?
What I did in OBS, if I'm being honest, I just preemptively set up like a capture. Hang on, let's just do this really quickly because I can just show people now.
How does a man set up a stream?
Very carefully. I preemptively set up window capture basically, and then just selected my browser of choice, and then from there you could probably what I did is just zoomed real far in and kind of cropped it, which is like probably the really like ravioli way of doing it.
Well, that's how we do things on this channel. All right, let me see what happens if I do this. Okay, I added a new screen, but all that came up was OBS. I don't know what to do about that. That's interesting. That is not Opera.
I've just realized that where my webcam is might not be the best place. I'm gonna really quickly move myself because I can do that.
All right, fancy boy.
Yeah, I'm a little sick.
Oh, your chat's apparently saying so.
Yeah, oh my god, like, I wasn't expecting everyone to just be like, yo, look at this dude with his jacket and stuff, look at the drip. I'm like, really?
I'm here all day, drip. You know, the only drip I'm feeling right now is sweat.
I wanna see what you look like on your stream real quick.
Go on, I'm not dressed any fancy. I'm summertime wear boy. Wait a minute, let me actually put the hat on. There you go.
Have you got that Yakuza jacket on? That's the main one.
No, it's too hot. It's too hot. I'll sweat.
It really is. I'm like sweating buckets.
Yeah, I'm not wearing. I'll get it all nasty if I wear it in the stream. Or I had to wear it in like when I was doing the live action.
I just got on the stream and all I see is just Inception. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's the. Oh fuck! I should probably get rid of that, shouldn't I?
Oh no! Oh
Let's get rid of
no!
that for a second. There we go. Now I'm here.
What is this?
There we go. Wait a minute. Put on the.
Yo, look at that!
There we go. There we go.
I'm loving the hat over the headphones instead of the headphones over the hat. This. What a look! What a look!
That's my drip for today.
That vest is looking Gucci on you, man. Look at them shoulders.
They are my shoulders.
My man Steve's been working out.
I can't even work out my fucking wrist, even if I wanted to.
Nah, you've been lifting weights and eating steaks.
Yeah, vegetarian steaks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Vegetarian steaks, yeah.
Alright, Alright, so I'm gonna have to just do this the messy way, I reckon.
Shout outs to the Water Gang as well. Right, I'm gonna stop looking at your stream because it just looks really creepy from my end, probably just gawking at you.
Like... just looking at me like, oh. Alright, there we go. His stream. Alright, so I'm gonna take this tiny screen and I'm gonna put you in the corner.
The worst thing is anyone that anyone that can what am I trying to say? Like anyone that can like is on your stream can probably just talk mad smack about me and I'd have no idea.
Well, luckily I've got this. Like I got the fucking chatter here, so I'm gonna fucking call him out, the little bastard saying.
Jesus, man. Yeah. Just for my channel as well. I'm not gonna.
An inch.
Just for my channel as well, I won't be adding Steve's cam or anything to the stream.
All right.
Just because that's too much.
Can you do me a favor though?
Admin.
Can you do me a favor and just check on my screen and see if it's actually working?
Yeah. I shouldn't have closed that tab. Give me a...
You done me in. Oh fuck, my phone.
Oh god, you donkey.
Can't believe I fucking did this.
Oh, what have you done? Oh no.
Oh, it's working, is it? Someone in the stream.
Yeah, that looks good. That looks good to me.
Can you see it all? Can you see everything?
Yeah, I can see all the beautiful people chatting as well.
All right, they're chatting, but I'm not looking at you. I'm not here for you guys.
Oh wow, rude.
They're fine.
You guys can deal, it's fine. Right? They're peasants. They're used to it. Yeah. The only thing I would say is maybe like the only thing I would say is maybe enlarge the thing. Otherwise, everyone can see the whole entire tab. Oh, okay. Nice Metal Gear reference as well in the chat. Hurt me more, Snake.
All right, where the fuck are you going? Maybe where do I put you? If I put you, do I move? All right, if I move my chair. No, this way. Ha 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 ha. All right. Wait. All right.
Oh, this looks so.
That will do. There you go.
Yeah. We're good. We're good. Good enough.
No, do I look good enough?
Good enough.
Can you see?
Look at this beautiful man. Look at that beautiful man.
Hey, we're talking about video games for a second. There's no anime in it.
Hey, bada bing, bada boom. As they say in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn. Okay. So, you will have to try and do a mad dash to find the games because I've already ordered them. In kind of the ones I want to talk about.
All right,
I'm not going to talk about the spin-off games, really.
All right.
It's strictly I think you already have some rules set up for me, but strictly speaking, it's going to be the main Resident Evil titles along with the remakes and Revelations 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Because I kind of count those games, but everything else on this list, like Gaiden or Survivor, screw them. Most of the spin-off games suck anyway, so...
How many numbers we got going, alright? Do we know a good... How many numbers
I calculated earlier, I think we've got 13, because it would be the main 8 games, and then the remakes of the original trilogy, and then Revelations 1 and 2. I believe, that's 13.
Alright, well that means you can only have about 3 games per tier, give or take, right? That would be your limit. So maybe there should be 2 for S tier to make it really spicy.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah,
you're saying that just to be mean to me. Yeah, that is part of the fun, to be fair. Hello, Jacob Carmine. Oh, this is another friend of the channel. What up? Cool. Nice to see you. Okay, we'll just get started then, right?
Yeah, okay.
Let's begin.
It's Resident Evil, boys. I don't know what Shin Megami Tensei.
Shin Megami Tensei?
As we say, Nocturne Strange Journey. The only
Tyrone, why don't you play a real Shin Megami Tensei game like Nocturne or Strange Journey? I can't believe people. Can't believe what would be I don't know. Resident Evil elitism is weird because you got the camp of people that are really elite about the original PlayStation trilogy.
Yeah, I can see that.
But then you got the camp of people now that are like super elite about just Resident Evil 4 and only Resident Evil 4. Then you've got like, and then you've got the people that like everything until Resident Evil 7 and 8 because they're first person.
I see.
So anything that isn't that like is first person Resident Evil is just trash apparently. Like it's really weird. Fan bases are weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna come out straight. I'm gonna come out hot, and I'm gonna say the only Resident Evil game I like is Resident Evil Gaiden. There you go, baby.
Well, it was nice to have you on stream, Steve. We're gonna cut it short here. Thanks for coming. Later, man. Later.
Listen, you cannot back away from the truth, okay?
That game sucks. That game is straight doo-doo. Like, no.
You do not understand the complexities of its beauty.
Okay, well, anyway, speaking of a good game, Resident Evil 1. So, I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
I guess a bit of
that one. I know that one.
Yeah, I know what that is. I guess a bit of preamble. You know, the game, the game that started not only kind of Resident Evil but popularized survival horror, right? Basically, was going to be a port or kind of weird remake of the game Sweet Home, which is like a weird Famicom.
I know that game too.
A weird Famicom JRPG that was based off of a obscure Japanese horror movie that, it was a horror movie as well.
House 2's fucking sick. House 2. It is House 2, right?
Yeah. No. It was. I thought it was literally a movie called Sweet Home. It's definitely not. House 2's the one with the cat, right? It's definitely not that movie. Speaking of a cat, you need to stay quiet a moment. I'm talking.
Don't worry. The stream is used to cats interrupting my streams and ruining them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there is no difference here.
So yeah, I mean, God, Resident Evil 1's a really interesting game nowadays because I would say, like, definitely the first game is aged, like, the first version of the game is aged like fine milk, and that's mainly because of the stuff they did to make it harder artificially. Yeah, like, because because essentially the Japanese version of the game has auto aim as a default, whereas then they removed that for the Western versions to make it more difficult, so that you had to, renting it from Blockbuster or whatever, you had to just keep renting it and renting it and renting it.
And of course, because in Japan, you can't rent games in Japan. It's a no-go. So it's a cheeky little bastard move. So, like, when it comes to the Americans, they'll still take advantage of the rental market. But when it's their own country, it's like, no, no rental here.
Yeah. It was so cheeky, but it worked, right? Like, because Resident Evil 1 is a short-ass game. I
finished it. I got to like the bees.
Yeah.
I remember there be fucking bees. That's what I remember.
The bees. So that would have been the outhouse area in Resident Evil 1. But yeah, then you've got the multiple versions, which, like, they all have like one weird thing about them. Like, for example, the director's cut, which usually gets confused with the DualShock edition because everyone knows the meme music. Yeah, the meme music is only in the DualShock version of the game.
Yeah, so you don't need the DualShock. You can play it without it as well.
Yeah, so if you play the director's cut version, that is, in my opinion, the best version of the game. Or Deadly Silence, which is the DS version, which is also just a straight port that has touchscreen gimmicks. But they're actually weirdly fun. Like, I love the knife. Like, it makes the knife really fun because it turns it into kind of like a
little mini game, right? You slice things with it.
Yeah, you can basically do a knife run. It's probably the easiest game to do a knife run, Deadly Silence.
Doesn't Resident Evil on the DS have co-op? Isn't that a thing now, or did it?
Oh, it really weird multiplayer mode that kind of sucks. It's like super limited.
Yeah, it's kind of a fascinating idea though.
Yeah.
What would you say is the best version then?
Personally,
you've probably played every single one of them.
Personally, I would say Director's Cut. I think Director's Cut is the best version of the game. The only thing that's a bit off about that version of the game is it's censored. Somehow, some way, the director's cut version of the game has the censored Japanese cutscenes in grayscale, rather than the actual, like, proper gory versions that you would have gotten from the original version of the game. But, like...
I mean, you're not missing much of that. That shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just fun, cheesy B-movie scene, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
But everything else is there. Like, you know, the cheesy, hammy voice acting that, like, you know, it's not scary, but it's fucking hilarious. It's like some of the funniest dialogue ever.
Were they Americans in, like, Japan? Isn't that how it went?
Yeah.
They shot in America, Japan, didn't they?
I know, I can't remember the guy's name. He's got a beautiful mustache. Does really interesting sort of video. Yeah. I want to say it's Wang or something.
Oh, yeah, Justin Wang, I know.
Yeah. He's done loads of videos, right? Basically finding these people.
Yeah, well, it's like part of the community, because there's, like, Stars, there's, like, a blog, it's like a blog or a website called, like, Stars. It's like a big community for, like, Resident Evil fans, and they've been looking for these people for years.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you make a big video about him, like, it starts to get a lot of traction, and people start talking. You know, 100,000, a million views, like, that shit can get people, like, found pretty easy, opposed to, like, a bunch of people on a forum. I need to say something to the chat real quick.
Okay.
I've got a couple of things. So I never know how to say anyone's name in the chat. Is it Suex? Suex, thank you very much for the kind words. And Mitsu, I'm glad you're liking the Resident Evil talk. It seems like you're one of the... You like all of them, it sounds like, outside of, was it 6? So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And how's it going, Hayden? And also, how's it going, Billy? By the way, Billy, the part 1 of my new video's out if you want to check it out. How we doing tonight, baby? Other baby. Billy, baby. So Mitch just got a question.
Sure.
We might have just answered it, but I'll just make sure. Is it actually censored, or did they make black and white to pay homage to George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, which is in black and white?
It's a bit of a grey area, but my understanding is that the Japanese, like, it's grayscaled to hide all the blood. Yeah, basically.
That's how you get lower ratings, usually, right?
It very much could be a nod to Romero, though, and I'm sure if you talk to a PR guy in Capcom, that's what they would probably say. But the fact there's like a coloured version, and that is like the original American version and the European versions of the game, and only the Japanese version was in grayscale, from my understanding. It's probably more just a censorship thing than necessarily a homage. But, you know, this is a game that also has a massive Evil Dead reference at the title screen.
True.
So, like, you know, it absolutely could be just homaging that.
Yeah, it could be a bit of both. I mean, creative solutions have always been how people have dealt with, like, censorship stuff in the past. It's usually going black and white, changing the colours. Also, one thing from Billy here. Yeah, so I'm having a good day then with Billy. We're going to be talking about Resident Evil on stream. Don't know if you've heard that, but I know you're a big RE guy, so we're just going to be chatting through and tearing these games. So that's all I got to say. Anyway,
and from my chat, I'm just going to acknowledge some people. Horrendous Blast says, hopefully, which one of my mods, hopefully YouTube will add something like squad streams in the future for occasions such as...
Ooh,
hard agree. That would be sick as hell. Killer Cucumber says, can we all agree that Gun Survivor is S tier? And that is 100% just trolling me, because he already knows I hate that game with a fiery passion.
Favorite game.
Fun fact about Resident Evil Gun Survivor. Every single room in that game, if you just don't look at the enemies, they just stop existing and can't actually hurt you. Good game! And Carmine says H2O, because we're both drinking water, probably.
It's so fucking hot.
It is so hot! It's so fucking hot! Please stay hydrated.
How's it going, Van, in the chat as well? We're looking for Resident Evil games. That's what we're doing today.
So, with all that in mind,
what are you feeling? What are you feeling in this game?
I'm going to put it in A, because I played it really recently, and I kind of like the director's cut version. I really enjoyed it. It's cheesy as hell, and it's definitely got some real issues, like being stun locked by hunters, for example, is not fun. But like, so much of like the survival horror charm still like shines through in it. You know, the multiple keys, the puzzles. Like, I mean, I feel like Resident Evil 1 is the most puzzly Resident Evil. They never really did that again to that extent.
Yeah, a lot of cranks.
Yeah, a lot of cranks and a lot of crate pushing, but still, like, everyone knows like the crow puzzle or like
piano?
The Moonlight Sonata as well.
That is. I was thinking of a different puzzle, but there is also a piano in that game. Yes. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. Like I remember last time play. It's such a fucking good game to play with people if you know what you're doing. Like, it's so fucking like the camp experience of it. Like I remember. Oh god, it was like 10, 12 years ago. I was playing this with someone, and we're laughing, right? We're fucking laughing because it's like that's fucking Resident Evil. It's like the fucking dogs come at us. We're like, what?
Yeah.
It was just an Itchy Tasty, baby Itchy
Tasty. Itchy Tasty is one of the fucking greatest things.
Oh my god!
I mean, and also just like Barry alone ascends this to an A tier because Barry became one of my favorite Resident Evil characters solely based on how fucking hilarious his dialogue is every time he's on screen. Like,
Billy, you did say Barry Burton is S tier, so like if we
absolutely, if this was a character tier list, Barry's in S tier just from that game alone. What, like
Barry is huge rock incarnate.
See, the best thing with Barry is like everyone has a different favorite line because everyone's got Jill Sandwich. That's a classic. You've got like, here's a lockpick. Might be handy for you, Jill, the master of unlocking. But then like you've also got like, my favorite one is when you get the he gives you the acid rounds. And he just goes like, it's a weapon. It's real powerful. Especially against living things. Like, as opposed to, just like, to be fair, he might be right, because if you fire that weapon against like a table or something, it's not fucking budging. So in a way, he's actually correct.
Everything in that game that ain't a human, or like living or
like a hell creature is dead.
That stands still. Like you can only push statues, you can't blast them.
Yeah, absolutely. And another good one is when I replayed it recently. Yeah. I forgot about this line, is when he gets knocked out by the tyrant and you check on him afterwards and he goes, "Oh, I'm really embarrassed. Mate, you just survived like a giant hell monster just clawing your face off and all you can say is like you're embarrassed." That's like the most Chad shit ever.
he's feeling that he was a bit I think with a word.
I think he's also the character as well that says, like, do you think we can see Tyrant now? Which is another good one.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And then, of course, you got Chris as well, has some zingers as well. I always like, there's a scene where you go into a room and Rebecca's in, and Rebecca shows up. And she's like eye shot, like distance, but Chris is like really short-sighted, clearly, because he's like, "It's me, Chris." Takes 2 steps. "Is that you, Rebecca?" Yeah, mate. Like
this little fucking needs some glasses. He doesn't want to admit it.
So yeah, I mean, like
is that when he has to stop? It's stop and aim at the zombies. It's because he just hasn't got his fucking glasses on.
Yeah, and then of course you got that live action scene at the beginning as well, with like where he lights the cigarette. And you hear like, "I got a shotgun" in the back as well. Oh man, that game is quotable as fuck.
It is probably the most quotable Resident Evil game I can think
Defo, one of them for sure. But very iconic as well. All the kind of the ceiling trap and things like that. Yeah, classic game. But yeah, I think A tier is a fair place. Now, on to the next game. I'm just going to put this bad boy in S tier right fucking now.
Oh my god.
Resident Evil 2,
I know it's your favourite.
I talked for like 50 minutes about it on this channel. Like, I could talk about that game all fucking day. It's so good!
With the limit of we'll see how it goes, but I think with the limit of choices that we have, things might move around as we go.
Yeah, potentially.
We'll have to worry about that later.
Potentially, but like
because if S tier is really only 2 choices, you're gonna have a battle there.
Yeah, there's like 4 games. There's 4 games on this list that I can think of that I would put in S tier, and I'm gonna have to really fight with myself about what goes where. But to me, I feel very confident in leaving Resident Evil 2 where it is, because Resident Evil 2 to me is like the quintessential, like, that is the formula of Resident Evil. you know? Like, every element that's, like, iconic, I think, to Resident Evil starts or, like, comes from that game. That's the one that introduces more of the action. That's the game that, like, you know, it has Raccoon City, which I think is the most iconic thing in Resident Evil. I know, like, Nemesis is very iconic as well, but, like...
True.
But, like, you know, I think the remake maybe kind of stole Nemesis thunder with Mr. X. And Mr. X is in the original game as well. Like, so you've got these elements all introduced here. You've got your Stalker-type tyrant kind of thing. You've got your dual characters, but then not only that, but you have, like, alternative pathways you can do based on, like, which character you start first off with and things like that. You've still got the, like, themed keys, but, like... You now have, like, more locations that you're going to, you know, like, the underground lab, like, everything that's, like, kind of an element in Resident Evil 1, I feel like is then, like, electrified in Resident Evil 2, and it just makes for, like, one of the fucking, as Ian in chat has just said, RE2 is the dog's bollocks, which is, yeah, it is, like... You know, Lickers came from that game as well. That's, like, one of the most iconic Resident Evil enemies. Like, Leon, Ada, Claire, they all come from that game as well. And, like,
they're pretty iconic cast.
They are probably some of the best, most iconic characters in the franchise. You know, like, the story is there is a story a bit more now. And I think as much as people can joke about voice acting and stuff, like, for when it came out, Resident Evil 2 has a really compelling story, I think, in terms of, like, setting, and it's still, like, quite simple, but, like, it still tells, like, an interesting character drama, you know, with, like, William Birkin being kind of, like, this tragic antagonist, and you got, like, the stuff with Sherry and her mum and stuff. You've got Leon and Ada's kind of weird relationship going on in that game. There's just a lot of elements that kind of really get, like, established in Resident Evil 2, and it's like...
Well, they had a real screenwriter for that one.
That's when they... Yeah, we've talked about it before. That's when they actually started getting, like, TV screenwriters involved as well. And I also believe this is kind of the Resident Evil that sets part of this development cycle of, like, nearly finishing a game, and then just scrapping the whole fucking thing and just starting again, and then the game coming out even better than it probably would have been, you know. Rest in peace, Elza Walker. But, like, you know, we got Claire.
There's a prequel outfit.
But we got Claire Redfield out of it, so I think it was a fair trade.
Well, I guess there was a time with, you know, Capcom where, like, they didn't believe in the sunk cost fallacy. You know, they were just like, well, this ain't fucking working. Just scrap it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pocket.
Killer Cucumber even says the jump from 1 to 2 is probably the biggest jump in the series outside of 3 to 4. Maybe. I think there's there is a select Resident Evil games that I think are like watershed moments for the franchise. This is its first one though. This is like Resident Evil 1's like the proof of concept, the blueprint. And then Resident Evil 2 like builds the house that everything is just gonna work from that point onwards. Like,
yeah, I got someone in the chat saying, what's his name? Mitsumit says that they would put it on A tier in the humble opinion. It's like a very, very soft start for the series, becoming more action orientated, and there are hardly any puzzles. There's also a ton of ammo. I think they're saying it's more about the streamlining. It's definitely a more streamlined experience than
See, I would say though that I think it has just enough puzzles. Like, I think it has just enough survival horror-y stuff that it's like balanced, because a lot of people, when they play like Resident Evil 1, for example, I remembered a lot of people being like getting kind of bored maybe, because it's like, oh fuck me, now I got to use this crank and go and backtrack here or do this thing or do this thing. Like, it's really hard for me, I guess, because like I've played all these games so much, I kind of know exactly what I'm doing in terms of my routes. But like,
that shit's been burned into your brain.
Yeah, oh my god, yes. Like, I've played Resident Evil 2 so much, for example, that I have 3 copies of it because the disc would wear out, and then I would just buy a new one because it was easier and cheap. So like, why not?
Yeah, but, yeah. I mean, they're like a couple quid.
I would argue though still like the elements there really hits home with, you know, that scenario A and scenario B thing is so fucking cool. It's so awesome to, like, even the fact that, like, in scenario A, you can find that room with, like, the machine gun and the extra ammo packs or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to make a conscious decision whether to keep them or not, because they'll carry over into your save file for scenario B. Also, that's the game...
That dilemma, right?
Yeah, and then furthermore, that's the game that starts introducing as well, like, really double downing on, like... You know, I guess the extra costumes was still a Resident Evil 1 thing, but, like, the alternate game modes, it goes from, like, not just alternate difficulties, but, like, okay, here's, like, the 4th survivor, like, which is, like, the hunk game mode, right? Like, that is, like, to me, the first real, like, mini-game in Resident Evil, like... and then you have like tofu mode as well, which is just fucking hilarious. Like,
yeah, and there's like so many there's like so many different versions of Resident Evil 2, and they seem to add something each time.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just really good. I don't know. Resident Evil 2 is a really good game. I just kind of like, and again, I think it's just full of iconic moments. Everyone kind of remembers that first liquor hallway, and like,
yeah, the liquor's pretty nuts.
It's masterfully done as well. Like, in that, like, they take advantage of the fixed camera angles for that bit, because trigger some water. They do a very specific angle the first time you go in that hallway. That's like from outside a window. And it only happens in that one... Anytime you go back to that hallway, from what I remember, it never does it again. It only does it for the first time the liquor appears. And so you feel like you're being watched from outside. And then, you know, like...
really specific.
Yeah, and, like, also you can see it, like, in the room beforehand, crawl past the window. So, like, right? You've already got that and like... It's one of these things that you might not entirely notice it while you're playing, but, like, you might subconsciously feel it, like... Yeah, something's about to fuck me up. Like,
it's like you know, if you're gonna have fixed camera angles, this is probably like the most effective way to use it, is to frame your character in a way that you can't control. Especially when you can give context to that. Wait, who directed this game again? Was it I
believe Shinji.
Was it
Hideki Kamiya was involved? Yes.
Yeah.
This is the one that Hideki Kamiya.
Mikami.
I think Shinji Mikami was still involved as well. I think it was like a dual thing.
Yeah, it was a double. I thought was it?
Because I vaguely remember we made a video about it.
Yeah.
Where I kind of talked a little bit about that. But yeah, like, I think it was kind of like a dual thing. But I don't think Hideki Kamiya was involved in many other ones, because I think he's involved with Resident Evil 4, I suppose, but then just makes his own game that I'm sure I'll happily do a tier list video about as well eventually.
Yeah, because he went on to do
Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there would be.
And then Mikami just, but Mikami's almost kind of like always like the guy steering the ship for the longest time with that franchise. But yeah, like, I don't know, it's just a very solid game, Resident Evil 2. I don't know, I'm trying to think of any kind of argument I can even make against it, and I can't.
I
so
think
good.
It's going to be a preference thing, because it is still very much Mansion 2.0.
Oh,
which I remember when
I'd agree with
that.
It
was very grueling.
Yeah. But like, to me, out of the classic Evils, like that especially just exclusively the PS3 games, like PS1 games even.
Yeah, the PS1 games.
That is to me the best one. Okay. I'm happy moving forwards unless there's anything more you wanted to say.
Well, someone in the chat says that Mikami was the producer and Kamiya directed. I can't check that.
Yeah,
so I'll let that be.
Yeah.
If that be the case, I'm sure you could Google it when we can't. So I'll give it to you.
That seems. I want to say that it's probably something around the lines of that. Yeah, because it's been ages since I've looked stuff up, and I didn't think to bring any kind of notes with me for this.
I think more about the qualities here. Like, it's been a while since I played 2.
I remember when we fucking played 2 with a couple of your mates. That was years ago as well. That was like nearly 10 years ago. How
longer than 10 years?
Wasn't it like 3 a.m. or some shit that we were still playing it? Like,
that
just
was
like
11 years ago.
Yeah, I think we were playing that, and we played like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as well. Like one of your friends cooked me a steak. Yeah, I watched you guys beat Crash Bandicoot 3. That was a fucking great. What a time to be alive. That was OD.
That was a pretty wild PlayStation day.
Yeah, for sure. So moving forward,
right, you're going to number 3. I'm guessing would be the next one.
Resident Evil 3.
Now it does have Mr. Nemesis.
Yeah. I'm gonna put it in A. I'm gonna put it above 1. 1 might get shifted after a while, depending on what else.
Because
Resident Evil 3 is a really fucking good game, but it also feels like Diet Coke Resident Evil 2 to me in places. Like, it's a shorter game from what I remember. And this is probably going to sound like super like high level stuff, so feel free if you're not interested in this, but to me, my problem with that game is the fucking random elements do my head in. But that's because that's that's definitely from like because there's so much like, okay, like if this thing, it could spawn zombies or it could spawn hunters, and then the zombies will be on this floor instead. And when you're like trying to just optimize a route or things like that on replays, like the first time you play it, like, or second couple of playthroughs, is like actually kind of cool, right? The first time you play it,
part of the atmosphere, is it not?
Yeah, the first time you like when you're actually playing it like from a speedrunning perspective, it's just like, oh, fuck off. Can't you just be in one place? Like, or the worst for me, the one I hate the most in that game is in the police station when you get into the STARS office. There's basically a 50-50 chance whether you're going to get the Magnum early or the grenade launcher early, and the grenade launcher is way more helpful to have early than the Magnum. There are times I've played that game, I've seen that Magnum show up, and I've just resetted and started from scratch again, because I just can't be fucked with doing that route with the Magnum as the early thing, which might just,
this could be a very personalized experience.
Yeah.
Because I think most people won't even realize, because you'd only know about the randomization if you played the game a couple of times.
And then there's and then I would say there are other things that I just think didn't need to be in the game. The main one is the Gravedigger boss, which is probably going to get some controversy. Randomized key codes, fuck me.
Oh, that's terrible.
Sorry, Carmine just mentioned I remember that shit. I fucking hate that stuff so much. Anyway, right. Going back, retracting. Gravedigger, fucking hate that boss. That boss can go do one. It's just really fucking annoying. Especially the second encounter of it. We gotta do the dumbass, like, it needs to be in the water, and then you've gotta shoot the light thing, and it electrocutes it. And, like, you can just miss. It's, like, really awkward to aim, while, like, Gravedigger's kind of just bodying you in the face. The dodge mechanic's a little jank as well. Like, it's never, fully as consistent as you need it to be.
Well, these early games, their boss battles aren't exactly very good. They're very sort of janky because of the position that they're in. Like, they're more just like obstacles than they are actually boss fights.
Yeah, they're either obstacles or glorified puzzles, basically. Yeah. Because like Resident Evil 1's got Neptune, right? Neptune is a puzzle. He's not really a boss. Or Plant 42 can also just be like more a puzzle than a boss. And then most of the Resident Evil 2 bosses are essentially just like they're bullet sponges that just follow you. They're just basically endurance checks. Have you got enough ammo to actually kill this boss, basically? Is most
part of the
and then Resident Evil 3, I guess, like, kind of tries to do like another kind of puzzly thing with Gravedigger. But my problem is, like, it just detracts from what I think should be the focus, which is Jill and Nemesis.
Yeah, that's the stuff that people remember.
Yeah, like, all the bits of the game that are actually cool, are the bits with Nemesis in them. Like, so having to fight this big dumb fucking worm twice just, like, busts my nuts a little bit. Because it's like, oh, fuck off. I want to fight Nemesis. Like, and I guess, like, that is, like, my mini rant, really, about the game, is, like, these elements. But like when the game hits, it slaps pretty hard. I love the ammo construction mechanic in that game. Like that's kind of the first one that introduces like combining gunpowder and stuff like that. Nemesis is hugely iconic. Probably still the best Resident Evil monster they've ever made. Like in terms of iconicness.
So. Like I can't really think of anyone who's more iconic.
It's basically just Mr. X on steroids, and I think that enemy type, like kind of that's like the one that like popularized the stalker type enemy that's just deals shitloads of damage and is just tanks like bullets like nothing, but like you can actually take it out, which I think is even more interesting because I think
because it creates a sort of two-way system of it.
Yeah, and I think there's like a risk reward to that, and also like a real tension, like an authentic tension. Because I think there's a lot of horror games that like to do, you're being stalked by this enemy, run away, like, and you just can't do anything to it, like at all. And to me, it's like once that illusion fades, you're like, oh, all right.
More annoying at that point.
Yeah, and at that point, I can think of games where I've played them where like the stalker enemy shows up and I'm trying to do something. I just fuck off, because I know I can't do anything but just run off, and it's annoying. Whereas like Nemesis, at least you know you can kind of try and fight back against him, like. And he's really iconic. Everyone knows like the stars and things like that, and the music when it kicks in every time like he shows up, the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and you're like, fuck. He used to, like that game was the one that took me ages to actually beat, because Nemesis just scared me. He just scared the shit out of me. Nemesis was the first to actually run at the player. I mean, I guess the hunters, I would say, also like run at you. But yeah, Nemesis is like more like the first kind of boss that can like follow you. Like he'll follow you through doors and shit.
Can you leave a message in my chat so I can pin it, so that people actually know who I'm talking to? I think.
Sure, no problem.
I was just gonna answer some things. So I think Mitzi was saying like, Fox, impassioned speech. Steve, it has been 11 years since I played Resident Evil 3, I think, like, in proper. So, like, my memory of it is pretty fuzzy. I don't know if I've got much in detail to say of it.
Sure.
Besides, I remember liking it at the time.
I will put something in here.
Give me and I'll just pin it.
What should I write? I don't know.
I'll write whatever you want.
I'll write the most me thing I can write. There you go.
I'm waiting for it to come up. I don't know how fast my chat is. I'll wait for it to do its thing. It will appear.
I've just read the comment. Impassioned speech at 80 words per second. Yeah, that's just me talking about Resident Evil, mate. I just be like that.
In. There you go. It's a hot day, so it's a good thing to keep messages pinned that talk about how hydrated we are.
Was there anything more you needed me to do, or?
No, that's all good. I think I pinned it. You should be able to see because it's pinned. There we go.
Sick.
There we go.
So people now know who they're talking to, who you're talking to.
This is Fox. Is it? Well, I can point at you then. I can be pointing at the pin chat to be like, that's who we're talking to. Yeah, the guest Monte Cristo is, or I think someone was asking in the chat. Yeah,
Hydro homies, what a comment. But yeah, okay. I guess back to Nemesis stuff, I suppose. Yeah,
Nemesis is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's like the you're right in that. Carmine's saying like he's the first to kind of run at you. I guess like in the sense of being a boss, definitely.
Well, he
I think
jumps out of the window and actually.
Oh my god! Yeah, he scares the shit out of you at points if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, like one thing for a dog to jump through a window and do what a fucking dog does. And there's another thing for this giant ass man coming at you with a fucking rocket launcher.
And the difference between him and Mr. X is like Mr. X, all the parts where he shows up, they are like set pieces. Like you do that puzzle in the room and he bursts through the wall. And like that scared the fucking shit out of me the first time I played. But like he's gonna do it. Whereas Nemesis, he has his set pieces. You know that like wherever you go first, Nemesis is then going to show up in like the city area. And you know like he'll burst through the wall in the police station or things like that. But there are elements where he'll just track you, like you'll be running through an area and then you just hear him and you're like, wait, oh fuck, I really need you to not be here. But it's like fun, it's like scary as shit, and because like you can't always just be prepared for him, or at least in my experience, you can't.
That's more interesting, I think. Well, all right, let's put it this way, because I think we've said a lot about 3. Here's what I will say. This is the fun thing I've got to say about it, right? What do these new Resident Evil games all have?
Yeah, basically, yeah. They all have some kind of...
All had.
Yeah, they all have, like, an attempt at a stalking enemy, basically from 6 onwards, because 6 has Ustenark, because they kind of didn't do it for a while, I would say. But, like, 6 has, like, Ustenark, 7 has the Bakers, specifically Jack, 8 has Lady Dimitrescu.
Big lady.
Yeah, big lady. I think I already know what the chat's opinion is going to be on Lady Dimitrescu. But he sets and again, like, even further, how many other horror games then just have an enemy type where you basically look at them and you go, that's Nemesis. That's just Nemesis. I think a lot of them do. I will give credit where credit's due, though. Scissorman came first. Scissorman, he came first. Cool. So he is, I would say he deserves more credit of being like the stalker enemy. But like, Nemesis made it popular.
Someone was just saying Nemesis was threatening because he could follow you from screen to screen. You could also, with Claire, walk backwards and stab to kill.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what he's on about. I know exactly. There's a way to like knife exploit Mr. X.
Okay.
Yeah.
You fucking speedrunners and you're fucking.
Although to be a bitch about it, that first fight with Nemesis, in the front of the police station, you can just turn around, leave the gate, run down the hallway, like the street you came by. If you run, there's like an angle where there's like a car or a bin or something that Nemesis can then get stuck at, and he can't attack you, and you can just keep wailing on him in there. So I mean, you can kind of do similar shit, like similar cheesy shit.
Yeah, you get them clipped. You get them clipped on some shit.
Classic I'm gonna say this for so that no one clips it. Classic Nemesis, it was better than classic Mr. X. Which I'm sure we know where that's going when we get to the remakes, but...
Alright. I'm going to say we probably said enough about 3.
I absolutely. You're like, look how we move to a game I know. Please.
It'll take a while.
Please, I beg of you. This game is going to be the controversial one.
Oh, is this
Code Veronica X or Code Veronica?
I never actually. When I got my Dreamcast, I think it's still around yours. When I got it, I was like, oh yeah, eventually I'll burn Veronica and give it a go. Never did. Never played it because I was like, I don't care.
I don't know if I don't know where to. I don't know what. I'm gonna be harsh about it. Fuck it.
D.
Fuck that game. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Fuck that game. Fuck that game. It sucks. I'm sorry. It does. Like, please don't murder me, internet. But that game sucks. It's doo doo.
Listen, this game back in the day got like fucking 10 out of 10s everywhere. It was like, oh, there's a best fight. They were fucking slobbering all over this game back in the day, and nowadays no one fucking remembers. No one talks about Code Veronica.
To me, Code Veronica is a lot of people like to say, like, the later Resident Evils jumped the shark. I think Code Veronica is the one that jumps the shark, personally.
Kind of seemed like...
And not only that, but that's the game, I think, that starts exposing the cracks of, like, the limitations of the tank control fixed perspective stuff. Because there's just loads of shit in that game that's just obnoxious.
Billy be saying Code Veronica is an S tier. Sorry, Billy.
I'm sorry, Billy. Billy, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You seem like a nice guy, but you're wrong. That game just the storyline to me is like getting into like actual trite territory, like. I don't think the Ashford twins are very interesting, like, antagonists. They're actually kind of cringy in places. Like the setting to me is just contrived because, like, like creepy mansion, okay, okay, like a bit goofy, but then like, and you know, but you can kind of suspend your disbelief. Resident Evil 2 and 3 is like the city, and like the only real like bit where you're like, oh, there's kind of some bullshit here is I guess the police station.
Yeah, the police station is still like, what did they explain that? Because when we were playing,
they do explain it. They make it work.
There's some like minor explanation. It's still like, basically, these police officers exist.
Basically, the police station, the way they kind of do it in the original game is like the Chief Irons has kind of like redesigned the police station because of like Umbrella kind of like having a little under the table deal with him, because like the police station has an immediate fast track to their underground laboratory, and like it's kind of like implied he's a bit of a weird control freak and like kind of has a bit of a sense of humor. And then like that's the same with like the chess pieces and stuff is again played up like there's just a guy that's like obsessed with chess in the police station that's like again got a sense of humor. But then like sure, like they're like contrived, but you can kind of rock with them. Then you get to Code Veronica.
Is absurd either way, right?
Then you get to Code Veronica and it just gets fucking dumb, because Code Veronica's like setup is like 6 months, I think, after the events of Resident Evil 2. Claire Redfield just like suddenly is now just like John fucking Wick. Like just
all these characters are
infiltrates like a Umbrella lab in like Paris or something, is like outrunning helicopters and shit, and like there's that scene where she gets put at gunpoint, she puts her hands up and then drops the gun and somehow falls faster than her fucking gun, like, which is impressive. And like then just with like pinpoint accuracy, like James Bond just blows up a bunch of shit behind people, but then like one random dude like puts her at gunpoint, like, and it's like, oh, I got caught. It's like, dude, you just did all this other shit. You can't just karate this guy and fuck him up too. And then it's like,
the conceit of it is right. The conceit of this is obviously all right. So we're dealing with the Dreamcast, right? So we're dealing with new generation of systems. We're dealing with like full motion video, the most hardcore like stuff, because it's all the adverts, right? That was strictly like, that's just ad bait. Like it was all just like, how do we fucking advertise a new crazy Resident Evil game to these kids, and like they make this most over the top stupid action scene to like be like, all right, well the rest of this game is like fucking in the middle of nowhere and you just walk around and it's dumb shit happening.
Well, this is something. Again, this is the bits that fucking annoy me, because like, you know, rather like, you know, for plots reasons, rather than just arresting Claire, they're like, no, we're gonna send you to this evil isolated island.
That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
With like this weird like old timey guy who like has a voice like this and goes more like, and like also includes the most obnoxious side character ever in Steve. I can't remember his surname. Mate, sorry Steve. I love this Steve, but the one in Code Veronica could go do one. He's so annoying. Dumbass Leonardo DiCaprio looking motherfucker. Like he feels like he's from a different game. Like he has this weird annoying nasally voice, and like all his plot is like really stupid as well. And then like randomly at the end of the game they're like, Claire and him loved each other. I'm like, how? They've known each other for like 3 hours. Like,
well, you know, this is how it goes, right?
Like fuck off. And then I mean the plot is stupid as shit, but then on top of that, like, all the bosses suck. Like, there's the one on the plane that just can fucking do one, because he can just instant kill you really easily. Like,
nothing I love more than instant kills.
Yeah, and that Code Veronica loves its instant kills, because you also have like a puzzle that's like this crystal fucking ball. I'm getting angry thinking about it because it's such a shit puzzle. It's like, you've got this crystal ball, you put it underneath like a press thing that like slams down from the ceiling, and then when it hits it, it cracks open, and then there's like an item you've got to grab from there. But you have like no time at all to like be able to grab it before the thing presses down again and kills you. And like, I remember doing that the first time thinking, oh shit, maybe there's a lever I need to push, or maybe there's like a thing I need to do to like, you know, stop it from fucking crushing me. Nope, just 50-50, don't die, I guess. And if you die, like, great. I've got to go to like my save point from like 5 billion years ago.
Is it like only 50-50? Is there no way around this?
Yeah, there's no real way around it, in my honest opinion. It is I've seen speedrunners try to do that shit, and even speedrunners can just fuck it up. Like, it's so imprecise and clunky to do. Like, yeah,
That's going to be an issue in 2000s, right? Because I remember, alright, kids, in the chat, fucking Zoomers. Before YouTube was a thing, right? It was sometimes fucking impossible to figure out how to do a game. Because you could look at these text guides, right? But text guides don't really show you how to do something. So, like, you can know what you're supposed to do, but doing it in a game can be very different than actually saying it. I remember that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
And that could be with this, where it's just like, well, what the fuck does that even mean?
Well, I just didn't beat the game. I just didn't beat the game for fucking years because I was just I got stuck on that bit. I got stuck on one of the bosses. Like, Igronat is in the chat as well. Hello, we're talking about Resident Evil games with Steve, who is in another chat. Do you want to really quickly run in and type something so I can like pin you, and then everyone will know? I could do that if you want.
How do I do that? I'd have to. My stream would be very awkward.
Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine. They can get the gist.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who.
But back into Code Veronica, yeah, like it's just very clumsy, very haphazardly made. I think the things it pioneers are like, sure, they're all right, but there's a bunch of stuff it like takes a step back. Like, you don't have the ammo gunpowder combining. You don't have.
Was it a different team? Like, who actually made this? Because it doesn't, to me, feel like the main.
I want to say it was because at this point you've got Zero being made by a team for the N64. You've got another team making the Dreamcast game, and then you've got Resident Evil 4 being developed all at the same time.
Because I imagine like the Resident Evil 4 is going to have like your big players because it's Resident Evil fucking 4.
Yeah.
So to me, this feels a bit like a side thing because it's just,
it's just messy. Like, that's the biggest thing with that game. It's just fucking messy.
Like, someone in the chat just asked me about, Thirkin Billy was about, what do we think of Eternal Darkness? Because I tried to play that game.
That game's fucking pog as hell. I love that game. I wouldn't put it in, like, like in comparison to the Resident Evil franchise?
Well, I think he was joking, but he was saying it's like Resident Evil. He's like, where do we put that on the list?
If this was like a survival horror tier list, I guess it would be like B, A. I wouldn't say it's S, because that game also has some weird janky problems.
Yeah, it's
but it's a cool game. It's a great game. It's very iconic. Like, like
cool ideas in that, right?
Yeah. Like, the lot of the Insanity stuff, like
the volume and the save files.
Yeah. Like the corrupt save files, stuff like that. Yeah, it's a cool game.
Really novel.
Yeah, it's a really neat game. Bit fucking weird in places, but like, it's alright. Made by the same dev team that then made that remake of Metal Gear Solid, if I remember. Silicon Knights or something like that. Yeah,
they're fucking down.
Yeah, they're dead.
Like they went
bust years ago.
Well, everything they made after that was pretty terrible. I think that was like the one game people seem to like.
Even furthermore, Code Veronica as well. Even like stuff like in Resident Evil 3, you don't have to press a button to go up and down stairs.
Oh my fucking!
In Code Veronica, you have to, and it looks so jarring. It's such a weird time.
Like when you have a game that like brings, like mechanical improvements or like streamlining in one entry, and then the next one doesn't do them, it always feels very like weird.
And it's not only that; it's that the extra sting is like it's the next one on new hardware that's better than the old hardware. Because one big thing with the game I would give credit for is it's not pre-rendered backgrounds anymore. It's all like. It's a fully 3D world, so now they can experiment with the camera here and there and stuff. Yeah. You'll have the camera follow you in places, or zoom in or zoom out on stuff. Which, that's cool. So, like, a technical marvel, I suppose, but, like, as a game I actually fucking enjoy, hell no, hate it. I've only beaten Code Veronica 2 times, I think. I fucking just... Ugh.
There's actually some other kind of weird Dreamcast horror games that are probably worth people's time more so.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the PS2 as well, like, that's the X version, like, which is probably the better version, and the one people more commonly played, I believe.
I mean, that's kind of funny in its own way. Rest in peace, Dreamcast. You get your exclusive Resident Evil game, and you get your head sliced off, and the PS2 steals it as well at the same time.
Yeah, and it sucks. But, yeah, so Code Veronica I've got in D for now.
I put it in D because I've never played it, but, like... It doesn't bode well to me to ever have an opportunity.
My one reason to ever bump it up is it introduced Wesker having superpowers, and
that's pretty cool. And Resident Evil 5 fucking killed that shit. Especially when they were just like, oh, he's not.
Resident Evil 5 did it way better, in my opinion.
Like, but, he was like, oh, I mean,
but also,
Genesis, Nazi.
And also, like, you know, Claire Redfield's in the game, and she's great. Her voice actor is like fucking Bay, and I feel horrible for forgetting her name now. How I'm gonna get beaten up for this. I'm not a real Resident Evil fan.
She's gonna come for you. She's gonna smack you about.
Alyson Court.
There we go.
Magal, Alyson Court. Big shout outs. Everyone go on Twitter and tell Alyson Court that she's the best Claire, because she actually was. She did. Claire Redfield's voice from Resident Evil 2 all the way to like one of the movies in like the 10s, in like the 2010s. Like,
that's pretty legit. I can respect that.
Yeah, like, and I still think she's got like the best voice for the character. I don't think anyone's ever been able to replace it. Like, she's so iconic.
There are sometimes talks about this, but you know, when you have a voice actor who is a character, it's really hard when they get replaced. It's like really hard to like deal with that.
Yeah.
When they like so much define the character, which maybe we'll get to in the next game.
Yeah, I think Alyson Court though, and the character of Claire Redfield has back issues after Code Veronica, because they are the only thing carrying the game in any way.
All right.
Anyway, real quick, I'm going to take a cheeky break because I really need to go to the loo. So bear with me.
I'll chat to the thing. I'll actually say hey to the chat for the
All right.
Well, how we doing, chat? We'll talk for a second. All right. So Mitsu is saying, I think Code Veronica was generally a good-looking game. Really nice light effects for a console game at the time. Yeah, I'll take that for you. My username backwards be Mevets? I don't know, would it? You tell me. Floggy with all right. To put it into perspective, Fox's memory on these Resident Evil games will be insane because he's played all of them. God knows how many times. Like Fox can sit down and just speed one of these games in like 2 hours or whatever. He can do that in an afternoon. So like he's played most of these games in like the double-digit figures. So he knows these games like no other. Resident Evil 0 has to be S tier or I'll die. There's only 2 S tier slots, my friend. I don't think we're going to be getting 0 in S tier. Not when Resident Evil 4 is about. Personally, I never had a problem with voice actors changing. Well, I don't think it's necessarily a problem with them changing, because that does eventually have to happen. But when a character really defines something, it does, like, that becomes part of their identity, right? Like in the same way with like David Hayter and like Metal Gear, right? David Hayter for the very much parts of like 20 plus years was Snake, and it is a bit weird in 5 when he's not him anymore. Even though like within that context, you know, he's Big Boss can be someone else. I guess it's fine, but like he was that character for that long. And even in like Japanese, it was the same character the whole time. It was the same voice actor. But like when you have a character who so solidifies that role and is that like it becomes their identity through generations of changes and looks and redesigned gameplay, they can be the one thing holding it all together. And I think that's a really interesting thing to happen, because eventually, yeah, your voice actor is going to disappear. Like, we've had like 1,000 Sonic voice actors, but I think Roger Craig Smith's probably the longest running of modern days, and he's done the character. He's pretty much defined the identity of like the post meta Sonic era, and I think he's done a pretty good job at that. Because before then, we were jumping between Sonic voice actors every game, right? Or there was like a small period where you had like the Dreamcast voice actors, and you had the 4Kids voice actors, and then before then you got and that's no good.
I'm back. Are we seriously talking about fucking Sonic?
When am I not talking about Sonic? All right. I was just saying, because someone was saying about the voice actors in chat, and I was bringing up examples. Like I was saying, like David Hayter being like is Snake, right? And like he played that character for so long, that's kind of like his identity. And I was using Sonic as an example of a character who has had lots of different voice actors play him. But like I used Roger Craig Smith as an example. Like modern Sonic has pretty much been defined by him for the longest time.
Roger Craig Smith is a great voice actor. Great dude as well. He was super nice when I met him. He's a really nice guy. It was really funny actually when I met him, because that would be right when he was about to start this would have been when he was voicing Sonic only for a theme park ride, and that was it.
Wow.
And he was known more as it's Ezio, and then here comes me waltzing up I think I was dressed like Leon as well at the time. Like, I waltz up and I'm like, oh my god, it's Chris Redfield, and he's like, what? Like, his reaction was a bit like, okay, you're excited about me being Chris Redfield, not the main dude from Assassin's Creed, alright? I'm like, fuck that game! Who gives a shit about Assassin's Creed? You're fucking Chris Redfield! Quit! Punch a boulder! Like...
Yeah, he's been Chris Redfield for quite some time, hasn't he? They changed him at some point, I think.
He has been Chris until like Resident Evil 7, in which like they had some other weirdo be Chris.
Wait, who was it in like an 8? Is it a no guy again?
Oh, Igronat has a question. As someone who is not a fan of horror, would you recommend Resident Evil?
It's definitely more like I think you could definitely enjoy it without it being.
Yeah, I would recommend Resident Evil to anyone.
Of course
like,
you would.
Fucking love them.
I think you could, because a lot of the games are more sci-fi, actiony, depending on the game.
It really depends on the
good choice for everyone, I would say.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 is a great place to start, and I think 5 and 6, if you're playing with a friend,
yeah, for sure.
are like, while they're not perfect games, are still good games to start, because again, I think they become more action orientated. Like 4 has its scary moments. For sure, but I feel like by the time you've gotten there, you would have probably been so invested that you could probably handle them. Because like, I think the super scary moments of 4 like come way later in that game.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas
Mitch
5 and
saying in here about like it's hardly a horror series for the most part. Like there's definitely horror elements in the earlier ones, but they definitely do. They've spent a long time merging these genres.
Yeah, like there's scary elements for sure, and it really depends on the game. But like, I think part of Resident Evil's popularity is that it isn't, it's not Silent Hill or like Clock Tower or some shit, right?
They're both more.
They're like, I would say those are games, or like Fatal Frame. Those are like games that are like horror games. Like,
it's in their blood.
Like they're games that I feel like people.
Right, but Clock Tower's pretty pog, right?
Clock Tower is fucking cool. Sick. I love Clock Tower.
It's pretty fucking cool.
I love Clock Tower. Anyway, while I was in the loop, we have to go back really quickly to Resident Evil 3. I'm so sorry because we missed the most important thing, man.
What did we miss?
Jill Valentine in like her most iconic fucking outfit.
That's true.
And just being like the best female protagonist in the franchise. And also,
I do love that outfit.
That Resident Evil 3 is like a watershed game in the sense of it is the first Resident Evil game where the protagonist is solely like one character.
Yeah.
And that character is a woman.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out.
That's pretty sick. Like, not until Resident Evil 4 do they do that shit. They went through 2 female-dominated Resident Evil games before they made one that was like a male-led game.
I mean, it kind of comes. I suppose it's somewhat the territory. I mean, if we're talking about horror-esque stuff, like the Final Girl is such a thing that I wouldn't. It seems like horror games do tend to like focus on female characters, perhaps not for as altruistic reasons.
Which I wonder what if that, because a lot of people I'm friends with, like, I find people that are really into horror games tend to be girls out of my friend group.
Maybe.
And I wonder if that is because usually it's got a female lead and it's easier for them to then be able to put their shoes, obviously like games are games. I never play a game and, I never play a game and like there's a female protagonist go, oh no! Like,
well, some people do, but how they get. But I mean, I think it's probably the perspective was very different back when we were young, though, because the 90s it was very different like atmosphere. And I think that like having a character like Jill Valentine or in that context, in that genre, in that time period, it's like it was definitely one of the few that you're gonna find outside of like Tomb Raider, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very different game than Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
And these girls are like. They're characters first. Like they have like the epic stories that all weirdly intertwined in bullshit with the Claire's and all this other stuff in Jill, and how they all connect to the story. Like it's very much like they are part of a bigger story, and they have their like reasons for doing stuff. And I think that's probably maybe why they react the way they do. Maybe, but I mean, I think it's just cool.
And Igravant has said again, I'll check out Resident Evil 4. If you can I would say either go for the Steam version, because that's pretty good and it has mouse support. And if you can find a way to play the Wii version, that's also a very good port of Resident Evil 4. I would say those are probably the strongest versions of the game. But we're not gonna get into 4 just yet.
Yeah, we'll get into 4 in a second. Mitsu's asked me. They're saying something here about. They weren't a fan of Jill's outfit in Resident Evil 3. Maybe they're a fan of 1, because 1's outfit's still pretty good too. I'm probably a bigger fan of 3. I think it's more.
1 is like my favorite Jill, but that's more because of like playing the remake so much that I more associate with. But like RE3 Jill is a very iconic look. I think it's fucking stupid for fighting the undead, but like as like cool video game character, you know, Resident Evil 3 is like Jill is like a very iconic look.
She still can carry like a rocket launcher in her ass, so like it's like this is the conceit of it being a video game. Right?
I also think as well that the end of that game, I don't know if it's just a me thing, but Jill wearing just like weird casual attire, because I think the lore is that she was going to go on a date. She was getting ready to go on a date.
I think that's funny. I think that's the funniest way to be like how you pissed off you could be that like you're going on a date and then suddenly out of nowhere this fucking nemesis guy comes to fucking murder you and just give you the worst day of your life.
And you know, but asshole. What's so great about that is that at the end of the game you're still in your like your tube top, your mini skirt, and you got go-go boots on, and you walk up to this big fucking like asshole like hellspawn that's been chasing you the whole game. You pull your fucking magnum up here and go, you want stars? I'll give you stars. And you're like, fucking yeah, baby. Like
yes.
Like,
all right, I think that's enough of Resident Evil 3. We've already done the Resident Evil 3.
That's how bad Code Veronica is. That we went back to Resident Evil 3. Okay, what is next? Oh shit!
I don't know what is next.
The remake of Resident Evil 1. Fuck! This is when everything's gonna get. This one's when everything's gonna get so fucking hard for me after this. Right. I have to put it in S. I have to put it in S.
Okay, well there we go.
It is.
I think I put the right one in there.
Yeah, it's the one with like Jill being attacked by a zombie on the cover.
Oh, is it?
Because it's the ugly American covers.
Fuck. I mean, you see, oh god, can I even find it? Yes, I found it. Okay, I'll look up there for now. I have it on PS3 if I recall, but I don't think I ever got too far in it. I don't even know if it's installed anymore.
This is the thing with Resident Evil Remake. I have played that game. Like, that's probably the one I've played the most. Flat out. Like, from
it's a very beautiful looking game, straight up. Like,
it is.
The game is like,
it holds up really well, and I do think in terms of tank control, fixed camera angle, Resident Evil, it's just the best one.
A lot of people generally consider that probably the most. I mean, it seems like it would be the most refined by that point.
Yeah,
it seems like it almost killed the franchise, quite frankly, because it was just like, well, where do we go from here?
And the figures as well is like they take so many elements from Resident Evil 1 and then manage to take all that goofy, campy stuff and make it actually fucking scary. Like they add loads of
more horror.
They add extra elements as well to the game that I think really
like the red
help
zombies?
it. Yeah, the crimson heads. Yeah. They bait you with the dog window stuff.
Yeah, because they know you know that's coming.
Yeah, and they add all these extra things that like your brain almost like can't imagine the mansion without them. Like, if that makes sense.
It is. I mean, it is a reimagining more so in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's restructuring. It's like pasting over the original with like the ideas, but in a postmodern way, it understands that the players of this game likely already understand what Resident Evil 1 is, and they're playing with that convention because it's a horror game. So they're playing because I guess they assume like, well, you can't just do a straight 1-for-1. We're going to play with what you expect to happen at the moments that are like the most iconic.
And then like on top of that, it's it's really solidly made, and they add a bunch of quality of life things to that game that like, where like you're like, oh, of course. Why would you not? Why did they not think to do this earlier? Like defensive items. Like,
yeah, that's pretty good with the
cool.
knives.
You can get these knives. You use them once, or like Chris can get zombie, right? Chris can put a grenade in their mouth, or like Jill's got the taser. You know, they added new puzzles. They added new story elements like Lisa, which was like fucking terrifying. Was Remake the one that had bomb zombie mode? Yes, it is. It's called One Dangerous Zombie Mode, and it can go fuck itself. It's so hard, like. Because it's literally, if I remember, it's like Richard, which is like, he's a super zombie anyway, with a bomb vest on. If he grabs you, he has a chance of exploding. And if you shoot him, he will explode. And he just follows you. Like, and then you have And then you have invisible enemy mode, which also has no auto aim. That game is like the king of extra game modes.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience as a whole, really. Though the issue I think for me now, I suppose, is that it just takes up too much space on the hard drive. I probably have to buy it again on PC if I want to play it again.
And I've just read what Mitsu's saying about Lisa as well. Yeah, she is like scary and also like depressing as a monster.
Yeah, her story, right?
Yeah,
she's got like a whole backstory.
Yeah, she's fucking great. Like these are all just things that just elevated the fuck out of that game. Like, oh, I love that game so much. Like, I could probably happily boot up one of my free copies of that game because I have free copies. I have the I have the GameCube version. I have an import of the HD version from Japan on PS3, and then I bought Origins Collection for my PS4, so I have that as well, just because it came with that, but I got it for $0 in HD. Like, but like, yeah, just it aged so well visually, but also like it's so well. It's also like so playable. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, no, it is because you can.
The thing about pre-rendered backgrounds is, I mean, there's definitely an art to it from what I understand, because nowadays it's literally easier to make fake pre-rendered backgrounds than it would be to like optimize a game with pre-rendered backgrounds, unless you have like a whole team to figure out how to do that. Just because, like it's like a very, I believe it's a very, like there's a weird dimension to it when you have to get the resolutions up so high.
Yeah,
like trying to figure out how to keep that going. But yeah, I wonder if, because pre-rendered games kind of died at that period, and it's kind of unfortunate because pre-rendered games were like such an interesting thing to see art design wise. Because was FF10, was that still pre-rendered backgrounds?
Oh, now you're asking.
I'm trying to recall if that was or not.
I don't
think it was or not.
I don't think it was.
It might have moved beyond that.
I'm not sure. No, because no, it couldn't have been because of the way the camera moves.
Yeah,
because the camera follows you, it tracks you.
Yeah, I think the camera was also the issue of a lot of that, because if you're pre-rendered, you're pretty much stuck with the camera.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of games that there are very few games that went on the 6th generation that had pre-rendered backgrounds that I could think of off the top of my head. And I believe that is one of the few I can think of. Because at that point,
I'm really quickly going to turn my light on because it's getting a little dark and I can see on my webcam.
You're getting a bit shady.
Really quickly, I'm going to turn my light on. Sorry.
Getting a bit spooky.
Hopefully, that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. said and stuff if you have pre-rendered backgrounds or backdrops, whatever you want to say, you can put more polygons into your actual models, so it sort of balances out in the end. Because you probably have a limited poly count on what you can really do on a GameCube on the screen.
And it's just, it was a very, very beautiful looking game. It was oozing with atmosphere as well.
Yeah.
One thing really that I think doesn't get a lot of credit with that game that I remember when I was playing it being like, oh my god, is the sound. That was one of the first games I can fit. I remember there were rooms in that game where I would sit there and just move my character around because your steps would change based on what you were walking on. Like you hear like these heavy creaking floorboards, or like the soft kind of pitter patter of like carpet, or like things like it really helps set the like atmosphere of that game. Like
because in contrast to something like Silent Hill 2, you can tell like it's like a very repeated soundscape with your footstep.
Yeah,
and I think that's maybe so I think it's maybe an intentional choice because it kind of creates a weird eeriness to it, especially during the beginning, because all you can hear is like 1, 2, 1, 2. It's just the same pat. And I think that's something they were going for, but again, I don't believe Konami had the budget that a Resident Evil game ever had anyway. They were a smaller scale affair.
I would say as well, like remake as well is like you know, it's trying really hard to be more grounded as well in terms of like
color scale,
and like its presentation, the story, and also to me, I think that's got my favorite version of Jill Valentine visually. Like that's when they introduced the Julia Voth model, and like that to me is like that is Jill Valentine's face.
Jill,
that is like what I think of.
Me too.
And like. Yeah, they kind of just fix things here and there. Barry, but while still keeping like the essence of the original, like Barry's still a little silly.
I mean, it's still pretty,
but in a different way of being silly, right? Like, I think in that game, there's a couple lines like I mentioned the acid rounds line. In the newer version of it, he says something on the lines of like, "Oh, here's a can of fizz that's sure to yellow and mellow those things." Which is like it's still a really goofy line, but sounds more playful. Like you could tell it's like written with an intent rather than just a bunch of but rather than being written by like overworked Japanese co-workers that can't write a script and are now trying to write in English and trying to think what Americans would say. Like, if that makes sense.
I wonder how well, I guess it depends on how they localize this stuff as well. I'm wondering how, I don't know what the story is behind like the localizing team back then, because they just had one cast back in the day, right? I don't know about how it is now.
Yeah.
Was that the case? They did have one cast, right? It was just one cast.
I was waiting for a question like this to be asked. Do you think Resident Evil will get any representation in Smash?
No, I don't think so.
Considering Resident Evil is a very mature game, that would be the thing to get around.
Well, it's not on the Switch. That's just as simple as
Resident Evil's on the Switch?
Not like the newest ones.
Yeah, but that didn't stop Final Fantasy VII.
Well, actually, no, 7 is on the Switch, though. It was on the Wii.
It's on the Switch. But when Cloud was added, Final Fantasy VII was not on the Wii U or anything. Switch was the first console that Final Fantasy VII was like on.
But I wonder why it's on there.
You know, or like Banjo is in that game now, and I get like he's got more of a history with Nintendo, but he's still an Xbox property. Like I don't know.
I would feel it would be very optimistic to think Resident Evil.
Incredibly optimistic, but at the same time,
I wouldn't say I'm not against it. I just don't think they'd do it.
At the same time, never say never. I think the main thing really, I guess, is there's never been any horror.
Nemesis, though.
There isn't really like a horror representation.
I would put it on Nemesis. I think Nemesis.
It would have to be. In the game. That would be what I would want. I wouldn't want like Jill or something, because Jill's cool, but there's just another character with a gun. Like if you're gonna do that, like pick an iconic monster, and then just have like.
What about Lady Dimitrescu, huh? You want Lady?
Oh God, I hope not. I like Lady Dimitrescu, but like nowhere near as much as the rest of the internet seems to.
Listen, she's very popular with certain demographics, okay?
Yeah. It's the simp demographic. I know the one.
No, lesbians.
For fuck's sake. Come on, man. Anyway. I mean, to be fair, actually...
I would do that with a lot of people, to be fair.
To be fair, in the lore, she does basically hate... Like in the lore, she just lives in a castle with all her girlfriends. So
yeah, I mean she's cool.
Yeah, I guess
it's like what do we call it? Women rock. I don't know what's the equivalent of dudes rock for women. I'm not sure.
Girl power, I suppose. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Would Resident Evil be in Smash? I mean, So, you know, would anything be in Smash? Will I be in Smash?
Maybe one
Will
day.
Steve be in Smash? I think at this point, Smash Bros. Roster is such a meme. Like, if you went 10, 15 years onto a game FAQ forum and, like, after time traveling, it was like, this is the roster for Smash Bros. In 2021. Like, you know, like, people would just be like, what the fuck? This is a shitpost. You're lying. Like, there's no way that, like, Cloud and Sephiroth are going to be in the same game as, like...
time, right?
You know.
If you tell someone from the year 2000 that Fast and the Furious and Jurassic Park would be in the same movie in about 20 years, they probably wouldn't believe you either.
Yeah, or like Dwayne The Rock Johnson became a massive Hollywood movie star and is, like, the most highest paying actor in Hollywood. They probably be like, bullshit! The guy that goes, if you smell, like, no.
Yeah, because he tried to become an actor in, like, the early 2000s and it failed miserably.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was, like, in Doom, he was, like, Walking Tall, or whatever it's called. He had, like, a couple films, and everyone was like, yeah, no thanks.
Steve, did you really have to bring up that there was a Doom movie? Come on, man.
Yeah. Alright, I'm taking a piss, you can worry about that.
Oh, that was...
Back in a sec.
I guess that's the one that I think a lot of people meme about with Smash now, right? Is they're waiting for the Doom guy to be in there. I think that'll be a weird one. What are people saying in Steve's chat real quick? Lighting and remake is always also way ahead of its time. Big agree. Sounds like the character is being intentionally corny and not that the writing is just bad. Yeah, agree. To be fair, she does say some very strong anti-males. Yeah, for sure she does. Heisenberg comments on how she just takes guys into the castle. Yeah. I mean, they all kind of hate dudes in Lady Dimitrescu's castle, right? My uncle works at Nintendo, and he said Jill is getting added to something. Well, that's really interesting, actually, because my uncle also works at Nintendo. And he's informed me that Goku, as well as Naruto, are going to be added to Super Smash Bros. So it's very interesting. I haven't heard about Jill being added, but yeah, I mean, maybe our uncles work in different departments of Nintendo, but yeah, sounds right. There are 2 Doom movies? What?
Alright, what the fuck are we talking about?
Carmine has just informed me there are 2 Doom movies.
Yeah.
What? What the fuck? When did this fucking happen?
Hosborg is telling me in the chat that apparently, you know, his uncle works at Nintendo. It says Jill's getting into Smash.
Yeah, I've already talked with him. I've said my uncle also works, and that Goku and Naruto are also going to be in Smash Bros.
Oh fuck yeah! Here we go.
Well, my dad works at both Nintendo and Sega. He's telling me that Family Guy is going to be fucking. Let's fucking go. You think that's...
Lois, remember the time I was in Fortnite?
Lois, you think that's bad? Remember the time I had to beat up Mario and Ridley? Fuck's sake. What a derailment. What
fucking game are we on now?
I've
forgotten what game.
You know what? That's a great... Resident Evil Remake.
Alright, well, I think we've said enough, haven't we? Like,
yeah, game is Gucci as fuck. Love it. Best thing about it is when you beat every single difficulty mode, including invisible enemy mode.
Of course you would have done that.
Shinji Mikami sends you a personal thanks and some concept art. So... 10 out of 10.
I mean, you've probably done that, so I imagine...
I have done that on my GameCube copy. Never again. Never again. That was pain.
Right. Yeah, I imagine it was. It sounds fucking insane.
I've also beaten the game never healing. I've beaten the game with no saves. I've done the handgun challenge. I've done a knife-only run.
Uh-huh.
I think I've basically beaten Resident Evil Remake in every way you could beat it.
What way haven't you been at this point? Alright, so
blindfolded. Anyway,
right, I think it's understandable that's one of the god tiers. So let's get into the next game, which I'm guessing is Zero. Is it Zero?
Resident Evil Zero.
Would that be next?
Yep. Came after.
I've never played Zero. I technically own it. I've never played it.
I'm putting it in B. It is mid as hell. It is okay. Love Rebecca. Rebecca's one of my favorite Resident Evil characters. Probably just because
Billy, Mr. This is gonna destroy Billy.
Well, Billy's like, how could this happen to me?
He's like on the fucking floor now. He's like, no, how could you?
Oh, Neo Belmont's come in. Hello, Neo Belmont. How are you doing, my man? We are indeed streaming. I'm here with Steve, Steven, or I don't know how to pronounce your channel ever.
You got to write that. Well, you write it every time today.
Okay, cool. Solid.
You know, we can be Steve for today. It's fine.
Yeah, we're basically doing a tier list on Resident Evil, which is one of my favorite games franchises. So yeah, because I beat Village the other week, or well, earlier in the month, last month, and yeah, we're kind of just fuck it off the cuff. Let's just do a tier list video.
Yeah, fucking do it, mate. Fucking do it.
Fucking go, mate. Go.
Let's fucking get in there. Fucking
get in.
Fucking go,
fucking get in. Yes. Get. Anyway,
come on,
Resident Evil 0. It's all right.
It looks very cool, like aesthetically. It's
yeah.
The same engine, like it's running the same stuff as like Resident Evil.
Yeah, I think some bits of it doesn't look as visually strong as
I guess there's limits of the situation.
It's got some really interesting ideas. I mean, it's the only Resident Evil game where when you can't fit items in your inventory, you can just drop it on the floor and pick it up from the same room later.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, I think
it's an interesting idea, but then in execution, I just end up basically making rooms that are my item box rooms anyway. So like, whatever, like
so I guess it's the option that you have the option to put it anywhere.
Yeah, I like the tag kind of the two characters at the same time mechanic is kind of interesting, but you got to deal with the clunky AI in places is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, this is probably a little bit before.
The story is a bit trite, especially in the sense that Rebecca in Zero goes through a whole like night of hell with Billy Cohen, who's one of the cooler Resident Evil characters. And then in Resident Evil 1, you then have to just believe that like she'll see a hunter and shit bricks and won't be able to fight back against it. When you've already like done an entire Resident Evil campaign with this same character.
Well, maybe she has PTSD, to be fair, like so.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. That's what they did with the movies with her, which I thought made sense. But this is like hours or something after the events of Resident Evil 0, so it's a bit like, what?
I guess she's just fucking done, mate. I mean, wouldn't you be fucking done after that? It's like that's just like too much at that point.
I guess.
I'm fucking done, mate. I'm fucking out.
I guess that's the one thing. The leeches are a bit of an obnoxious enemy type. There's some other really obnoxious enemy types. I remember there's like monkeys or like bats that are kind of annoying. I think my problem is it's just fine. There's a lot of like forgettable stuff. I feel like it's a game that peaks really early because the train is like a super unique, interesting setting.
Yeah, that's the coolest part that I've seen.
Yeah, and then once you get off the train, it's like, oh, I'm in a mansion. Oh, I'm in an underground facility.
We've seen this before.
Like been there, done that. Like, and really in terms of any pressing questions it's answering in terms of a prequel, you just kind of know who the CEO or founder of Umbrella is. Which is like,
yeah, I mean, prequels in themselves are always going to be a little bit questionable.
Yeah,
so I suppose games are an easier way to do prequels because you don't have to worry about the conceits of many other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, on one end, I'm glad they gave Rebecca an adventure because she is kind of, I don't know, she's an interesting character because she's one of the only Resident Evil characters that is like acts a bit more human, I suppose, and like actually legitimately not being able to handle a lot of shit that's going on.
Yeah, which is fair.
But on the flip side, like, it's not the most compelling game in the world. It's okay. I think you could play for it, have a good ass time, but you wouldn't at the end of it be like, I don't feel like you'd have that same itch to replay it in the same way you would get from beating like Resident Evil 2 or the remake of Resident Evil 1 or
you know. So saying, is there a version of this game where you can play as Wesker?
Yes, there is.
Pretty cool.
That is the HD version.
Oh,
they added like an extra mode where it's Wesker and a brainwashed Rebecca, and Wesker has all his powers and shit. It's pretty fucking dope. The alternate costumes in that game like spoil you because there's like you've got like prototype Resident Evil's Zero like N64 costume.
Oh, that's cool.
Like shit like that, or you can dress Billy up to look like Cody from Final Fight and Street Fighter, which is kind of sick as well.
There we go.
Like,
the chains, can you get the? Is that Cody?
Yeah, I think he's got the chains and shit as well with it. Like,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's one of the cool things. But I wouldn't say it's like Yeah, it's all right. I've only beaten it a handful of times, but like I would say B is a fair place to put it.
All right. Well, we might as well move on because I have nothing to say. I have not played.
And now it's time to have an argument, Steve. Because now I have to try and take something off of S to put Resident Evil 4 in there. This game's too good to not have it in S, but it also...
Listen, okay.
Fuck!
It's gonna be Resident Evil 2. You're gonna have to remove Resident Evil 2, my man. I don't think you can keep... if you only have 2 games in S tier, it's gonna have to be 4 and in the original remake. I don't know how else you're gonna do that one, unless you tell me that Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1 is better than remake. Which you better argue that one with yourself.
So hard. Because like Resident Evil 4 is like... That's like when Resident Evil like explodes, right? It completely reinvents itself, and it's a huge risk to do that, and it pays off like gangbangers, like fucking.
In a way, it really hurt them because.
Oh, your mic's broken up, my man. Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, cool. It was having a moment. I don't know what it was doing there.
That was weird. Anyway,
All right, what was I saying? What was I saying? I was saying like it kind of like changed the franchise inherently, right? Because they had to like completely reinvent, and it was like a reinvention that was like really painful, because Resident Evil 4 became the powerhouse.
Yeah.
And it was released on everything. And then it's like, well, pre-rendered's gone, fixed camera angles are gone.
It is interesting that Shinji Mikami still hasn't cut his head off with a chainsaw. Like 15 years after Resident Evil 4 got released on every other platform other than the GameCube.
Listen, he's waiting for the right day, okay? He's waiting for the right day. He doesn't work at Capcom anymore. He doesn't need to keep that commitment.
Really quick, Igronaft. No, I do not think there will ever be a crossover between Resident Evil and Silent Hill. I think Dead by Daylight is your best chance, because those franchises are both in Dead by Daylight. Silent Hill would have to actually come back from the dead. Yeah, and I just think the two worlds of Silent Hill and Resident Evil are vastly different. That I don't
really
think
be worth anything.
It's like what
would dramatically different flavors of things.
Yeah,
and like Silent Hill doesn't even know what it wants to be anymore. Like Silent Hill had that PT, right, and people were like, oh shit, Silent Hill's here, boys. Silent Hill's here, and then Konami fucked it so hard, and then Resident Evil was like, oh, let's just copy some homework here.
Yeah,
I think we can take a couple ideas off this thing. That's pretty promising. And then Silent Hill's never coming back, because you're not going to get Kojima back. You're not going to get Del Toro back. You're not going to get all these people back.
Game's fucking
they ain't coming
dead.
Back to Konami.
Yeah, franchise is dead. I think Silent Hill's fucked.
It's done.
And yeah, like again, like even if Silent Hill was a prominent franchise and they didn't fuck things up, like how would you cross these games over, like without feeling dumb?
I'm gonna be really blunt here about crossovers. I think crossovers in general are a terrible idea, which is probably always a flag. But just fuck crossovers, man. Like what is the utility of crossovers outside of like weird fan shit bullshit, like fan?
Yeah, and that always works for like a multiplayer game or something like that, right? Like Super Smash Bros. It works, or like Marvel vs. Capcom, or thing.
If you want to be cute, whatever.
But it's, or Dead by Daylight, which I mentioned. That's like just a big horror game crossover, basically, at this point. But like if you're trying to make like a serious survival horror game, like. It just can't be done, my dude. Like, it just can't.
It won't even be the utility. I just don't see because you'll be taking two vastly different types of gameplay and be like, well, what do you do with it? You're gonna make a Resident Evil mode and a Silent Hill mode, like?
Yeah, nah, yeah. They're just two. They are very similar in kind of their history, or like in terms of like their survival horror roots, but also vastly different in what they actually are.
Yes.
Anyway, back to Resident Evil 4.
Back to Resident Evil 4.
Resident Evil 4 is just fucking that game is hugely important to like the industry as a whole, right? That just set the standard for what over the shoulder camera angles.
Yeah, they really just did it. That was just the camera
Gears of War, Dead Space, Uncharted, like off the top of my head, they're all kind of. all of like that DNA, like Resident Evil 4's DNA is on these games. Like, yeah. I mean, Gears of War and Dead Space developers have just flat out admitted, yeah, we played Resident Evil 4, we're like, this is fucking awesome, and just took that playstyle and ran with it.
I mean, yeah, 7th gen games in general use that camera angle. That was just the camera angle of 7th gen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, the only thing it's missing is a cover system.
Yeah, and then Resident Evil 4 on top of that, like, you know, it brings in, like, it's the only game that had button prompts or, like, quick-time events that kind of worked.
Yeah.
And, like, Leon is, like, at his most charming with his best voice actor. With,
like, it's a real shame that, like, after that, like, he was just gone, right? He did, like, one movie, and then he was just out.
And, like, also, like, Resident Evil 4 is, like, this great blend of, like, dumb, surreal, ridiculous shit, but like
unbelievably talented.
But like also still played like straight enough that you could still be like scared in places. Like,
yeah, there's like there's one specific enemy that's like creepy in Resident Evil 4, and everything else is pretty goofy.
The guy with the stitches in his eyes used to scare the fuck out of me as a little kid when I played that game. The invisible bugs that vomit your face off, fuck those things.
I think to me it was just the white, what were those things called?
And then of course, the white thing, the Iron Maidens, as well as the Regenerators, which make that horrible breathing noise.
Yeah, the Regenerators, because the Regenerators will stay around without music. Because most enemies, when there are enemies around, there's music, but like the Regenerators don't have music.
Well, it's not that they don't have music, but that the music is so toned down that you don't notice it.
Yeah, it's like.
But you will notice the breathing. You notice the breathing. Like, yeah, just scary as shit as a game. I don't know if your mic's cut out again. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't know. It's doing something funny. You're back. Yeah, I have to. I don't know. I'll have to check it later. Maybe there's something wrong with the thing. But yeah, sometimes it might. I don't know. Sometimes it might get a bit funny.
Sorry, Carmine just made a great comment as well. Konami stabbed PT with a screwdriver, and then Ethan Winters springs out of his dumpster and rummages through PT's pockets for loose change and chem fluid.
Well, yeah, I mean,
pretty much.
Listen, if you're stupid enough to let fucking Kojima leave your company with your fucking, like, that game would have sold like gangbusters. It would have been the best-selling Silent Hill game of all time. They fucking know this, and you let like the competition just steal all your ideas, then like it's your own fault.
Get fucked. Fuck Konami.
Don't be a dumb fuck.
I love Castlevania. I love Silent Hill, but fuck Konami. They suck.
Listen, like, literally, you know what Kojima could do? He could just make a game called PT. He literally could just be like, "Oh, I'm making PT, by the way." It doesn't need to be. Who the fuck? Like, what connection does it have to Silent Hill? Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. It's his project. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. It wasn't like anything like the prior ones before anyway. He can literally just go do that. He could make BT. He could make a fucking BT over here. Like Kojima.
Oh,
it's like, yeah, this is my new original franchise.
The man, the myth, the legend, Gabe Noah is in your chat.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I tried playing Resident Evil 4 on PC. The controls aren't the best, so I don't have any controllers. Any tips? Are you playing the original PC port or the Ultimate HD Edition? Because you're playing the Ultimate HD Edition, the PC controls are a bit more intuitive in that you can literally aim with the mouse.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
If not, though, I mean, get an Xbox controller, basically. Just get an Xbox controller or get the Wii version and play with the Wii and nunchuck.
I would say that the Wii version actually opened my third eye in terms of, because I played Resident Evil 4 originally on the PlayStation 2, and I remember playing it and being like, yeah, that was a fine time, but I wasn't like in love with the game or anything. But playing the Resident like on the Wii, I was like, oh shit, no, this game is fucking like the go. Like, I don't know what it was that changed between those versions. Maybe it's optimization, maybe there's more enemies, maybe it just looks better. I don't know. But the control, playing with, like, the remote was such an experience. And unfortunately with my fucking... it's really hard to do with, like, you have carpal tunnel. You have to be very careful with the knife, because that will fuck your wrist up like nothing else. But you can do it auto. It's like a button you can press where you can do, like... I think it's on the other nunchuck. If you press a button, you can slice people without having to, like, do the knife manually. Because that shit just fucks your wrist. But like, it's just such an experience to play that way, and I think it's generally the best way of playing it. And I'm kind of annoyed they've never really like redone it, or like they've never recreated those controls on a different platform, because the game feels like that's just the experience of playing it. Even if like you are a lot better because your aim's better, but you know, it's just fun. It's just fun to play it that way. I played it with my roommates, and they had a great time just watching, because again, it was just like you're just popping heads.
The only thing I will say about that Wii version is you're a bit too good when you play the Wii version, because the reticle, instead of it being a laser pointer, which is a bit harder to then place your shots, it's just a big target reticle that goes red when you have an enemy like in your sights. Like when you can actually
they make
so I was able to like play snipe shots with a handgun from like halfway across the fucking map.
Yeah, I still think that's the best way to play Resident Evil.
In terms of like you feel like a god, yes, but
yeah,
like
I mean you can
in a way I prefer playing with a controller.
That might be
Resident Evil 4, I've put it in S tier. I can't decide whether it should go above remake or not, but like, yeah, I think for what it did with like the industry as a whole, it's I know in my heart of hearts I could just play it and like I could put it on now and I'd probably just play it to completion in a night. Because it's just
you literally
so fucking fun,
and it's such a good time.
Yeah,
just every like stage is just so it's such a game.
And also so fucking wild. Soapbox moment. Fucking Ashley Graham is a great character and a fucking awesome escort character. Like anytime anyone tells me that Ashley was annoying or obnoxious or blah, all you're telling me is that you suck at Resident Evil 4. Because I had, like, no issues with this character. Like, I remember when I first played the game, I was like, you know, there was, like, that feeling of dread. Like, oh, fuck. Yeah, oh, no, escort mission.
Would be like Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, like, no. Or, like, Silent Hill, The Room. Like, that's also awful for escorty stuff. And then suddenly it's like, oh my god, she like tracks you perfectly, and like when you aim, she just stands directly behind you and follows you, so you can't accidentally shoot her. If you do a quick 180-degree turn and aim, she'll duck out of the fucking way. She'll warn you of enemies being around. Like, she points out like objects or puzzles and shit. And there's even just areas where you could just throw her in a dumpster.
Yeah, you can just get rid of her.
And just she's invincible when she's in there. Like,
yeah, you can get rid of her very easily most of the time if
you
need to.
And like there's fun little Easter eggs with her as well. Like the fact that in some versions of the game when you're playing as her, if you manage to get the monks to stagger, you can do a suplex to them.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Or
the original Japanese version, you can play with the fixed camera controls. Like
yes, you can.
That was pretty fucking cool. That was pretty fun. It's a shame. I think you can glitch it into the other versions of the game, but it's not quite.
Mitsu says the only time that Ashley is annoying is on Professional in that one big room in the castle before the crank. I
don't remember.
I mean, I played that game.
The sniper?
The problem is, I remember you once said I was a new type with Capcom games. I feel like I'm really heavily exposing myself. But I've beaten Resident Evil 4 on Professional with just the handgun. Like, the starting handgun. So, like, any memory of Ashley being annoying or anything is just gone in my brain because I played the game to a fucking science.
Fox is just so good at these fucking games. Like, it's like a different level. Like, I mean, I probably still struggle to play.
This is the only franchise I will like swing my dick around about as well. Like, I'll openly admit I'm shit at other games, but Resident Evil, I'd like to think I'm pretty fucking godlike.
I mean, I'd love to. I've been considering buying like the ultimate HD version on PC just to have like a different way of playing it.
I've considered it myself.
I think. Just because like I like the like you know that project they did, I really love that project they did with the HD like restoration.
Yeah,
like, that stuff is like wild, especially like how they went to like different locations to get the shots.
Yes,
stuff, like I was like a collage artist when I first found that, and I still do a lot of the collage stuff. And it was like, I have a better camera now. I should probably go and take more photos. But just the idea, because that's what you do when you're a collage artist, is you find like materials or archive stuff. Oh, the cat's at the window.
Carmine says as well, Ashley's AI, I would agree with this, Ashley's AI is simple, but rock solid. And I would agree with that.
It's never an issue. And she never gets stuck on anything.
And he says, I'd take a single Ashley over a squad of Halo Marines. Agreed.
Oh, hell
Agreed! Yeah. Like, I think the other thing is, And you've made a really valid point that actually is simple but rock solid. And I think so much of that comes from the fact that Resident Evil 4, in its design, is like near masterful in that, like, the level design, how enemies work, how your AI works and stuff fits perfectly with the control scheme and your camera angle and things. Like,
yeah, everything.
It is a near perfect design in terms of like, and like I think this is why then 5 didn't hit quite so well.
Yeah, because like the scales were turned, right? They were. Then again, I'd still sit down and play 5 at some point.
5 is a fucking laugh. Maybe we'll do a stream one day where we play 5 online.
Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it. How will we do it on PC? Can we do it on
PC? Yeah, it would be a PC version.
I mean, maybe we can get one of those mods that make the game not piss green.
Yeah, god damn, that's one problem with that game. But yeah,
we can probably do that.
But like, yeah, I'd say so much of Resident Evil 4 is that like it everything in its design like fits perfectly. Like
every piece is exactly where it should be.
Yeah, and there's lots of like really smart decisions with the AI, like the fact that enemies will give you cues if they're behind you. Yeah, I love that they actually say as well in Spanish, like right? say things like "I'm behind you, idiot," or like "Look behind you, dumbass," like, which is great.
That's so funny. That's a good
or like the monks will just laugh at you as they're about to attack you.
Well, it's just like the construction of that game is like a beautiful, like, I don't know how to say it. It's like a tower, right? Because every piece of it sort of jumps. You have that first stage area, you kind of learn the ropes, and then suddenly out of nowhere, there's a fucking giant eel you got to fight, and then the game just starts expanding and getting wilder and wilder for every stage to the point where at the end you're in like the Juggernaut situation. You got fucking army men, zombies. You're fucking going against the Braid. Everything gets insane, but it builds in such a way, and the characters are so fun.
And they're memorable, by Torres Mendez. Salazar.
Yeah, Salazar's like the fucking guy.
And I love his voice. He's like one of the fucking, he's great. Fuck tall vampire lady. Used to be, back in my day, you go to a fucking castle in a Resident Evil game, you get a small little French dude.
French dude. This is discrimination against
Mr. Kennedy, Mr. Kennedy, I'm going to beat the shit out. Yeah. What a godlike character. And then you got Ada as well, is like fucking her return, and she is always like constantly sick in that game too.
Oh, she's fucking cool.
You got the extra modes as well, like in spades, like Assignment Ada, Separate Ways, which it's worth noting that Separate Ways was was not available in the original GameCube version, and a couple of the costumes and things, they were added in the PS2 version. I believe the GameCube version you had Assignment Ada, and you had then the Mercenaries mode. And let's just talk about the Mercenaries mode for 1 minute.
Fucking iconic moment.
One of the best extra game modes in a game ever. Actually, you originated from Resident Evil 3 as well, but really comes into its own in Resident Evil 4. I sound like fucking American Psycho, don't I? Do you like Resident Evil games? I thought Mercenaries in Resident Evil 5 was 3 was a little too new wave for my taste. But when it got into Resident Evil 4,
there's such a glimmer in technique to the return with its extra add-ons, its modes, its timer. Everything really comes together in the Mercenary mode to make something that is above its sum of its parts. I mean, I wasn't even a huge Mercenaries guy back in the day. I could probably see me spending more time on it on like the Wii version maybe, but not with my wrist. But like, I think you'd really get into it if you're like really into that sort of time attack.
Fucking obsessed with Mercenaries when I played that game. Like, I remember I used to do dumb shit like Hunk. There's videos of it online. There's like that people have made, but there's like the neck break mode. Like you gotta do a chain, but you only do Hunk's like neck break attack. So you gotta stagger every enemy and break their fucking neck, or like throw the flash grenades down and break their neck. Like, and it's fucking sick. Or like Krauser with his like transformation, like mutated claw arm. Ada's really fun. Wesker's really fun. Yeah, that Mercenary mode is fucking godlike. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're playing it at its top percentage. I think when you get into co-op Mercenaries, that's probably where I think it's most interesting.
I would also,
I don't think you can do co-op in
I would also say Resident Evil 4 is so good that it doesn't ever need to be remade and shouldn't
remaking
ever
a terrible
be remade, and is a
like,
terrible idea.
You
Don't remake that game.
I mean, they're probably going to try to, but like it would be just a bad move. It'd probably sell a lot. But...
What's the point? It's like remaking the Mona Lisa. Like, what's the fucking point?
It's money to Capcom, right?
Yeah.
Because it will sell like 8 million copies.
See, to me, I feel like I'd rather see a remake of like Code Veronica because that game sucked. Like, and you remake it and make it a good game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that will happen. Maybe they'll do a Code Veronica remake.
Or like you do reboot Dino Crisis. Like, I mean, again, those would be the things I'd fucking do. Those would be the things I'd fucking do. But yeah,
Resident Evil 4 remake. It depends on what Capcom is feeling. I feel like it's in the cards that they'll probably do it. I just think like it would be all right. I feel like they would basically be remaking it in name only, though, because technically, well, I think that the smartest move would be to do with Resident Evil 8, right? Where it's like you just take the formation of 4, and then you just make a different game.
Yeah, well, that's basically kind of
what they've already done.
That more or less is what Resident Evil 8 is to an extent. It's more or less the salad dressing of Resident Evil 4 with some more extra stuff.
I mean, someone's saying, I got a super chat here for that.
The Wii version
is the worst. I do not agree one bit.
That is a big disagree.
I don't think I think it's using GameCube visuals because it wouldn't be using the PS2 one because the PS2 one would be modded for the system.
Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you that's incorrect. It's using the GameCube character models and it's using the GameCube visuals with just the extra stuff from the PS2 game. That is wrong.
If you prefer the GameCube version, that's fair enough. I mean, I like the Wii version for the controls, though. Like, I wish it was on a different system with more.
Well, the thing is, you can actually plug a GameCube controller into a Wii, and once you get past the main menu, where it wants you to use the Wiimote at the main menu, you can then play the entire game with the GameCube controller.
Yeah, you can do that. It's just like a controller option, really, at that point.
But yeah, Resident Evil 4, fucking great game, pretty much perfect, been ported to everything for good fucking reason. Yeah, I would. It hurts me to have to take Resident Evil 2 off the S tier because, to me, these are the three kings of Resident Evil to me. Remake of Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil 2. And then there's another one that is joined that group. But we'll get to that one later, right? In a bit.
I mean, yeah, I can't really... Just everything, it's the character of it, it's the music. I mean, it's a slightly different kind of musical structure, but just for a franchise to change itself so dramatically and do it in such a way where it breaks its own franchise for, the next decade, it's kind of impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so Resident Evil 5.
I've already played it with you. Well, all right. There's two experiences. I played the DLC with you. I played a couple matches with you before, and back many years ago, over a decade ago, I played it at some friend's house, probably back in school. And I think Resident Evil 4 controls. It's that kind of thing, just more actiony. That was my experience.
It's Resident Evil 4 with a worse inventory system, and if you play it single player, it really hurts the game because Sheva's not very. She's a bit of an annoying AI. She isn't.
I can imagine so.
She isn't bad, but it's just typical AI stuff. She's really quick to try and just spend your resources to heal you. She's like an overprotected mum. You get hit once. It's I gotta clean the boo boo. It's mate, I'm a big swolley buff dude. I can take a couple of hits, mate. Or
I guess it's with it's the issue with, I guess, the gen as well, because you give her certain weapons, what she's going to use. There's a lot of different options.
She'll prioritize power weapons usually, so you end up just using her as an ammo pack mule and just hoarding the weapons for yourself. Which she isn't terrible. Don't ever have anyone say that she's terrible. I've never had a moment where it's fuck, I died and it's Sheva's fault I've died. But there's points in the game where you're that's a bit inconvenient. I need you to not do that a moment. I need you to stop running healme.exe and do something a bit more useful.
I imagine the issues are probably that she's overcompensating for poorer players, probably.
Yeah,
Mr. New Type, because she's expecting the person playing to be a lot worse at the game than you are.
Yeah,
so, well, she's wasting your resources, but for another player, she might be saving their life.
Maybe.
And I think that's going to be the difficult position that they're put in. Like, the AI is probably not advanced enough to like understand different levels of play.
And then I would say the other problem is like Resident Evil 5 is a game that starts really weak, in my opinion, because it feels like you're just treading over the same stuff that Resident Evil 4 did, but not as fun. Like, okay, I'm in the village, and
they're probably
here's the bit with the horde enemies, and there's the one big enemy type that you can
they're
beat.
Going through the structure.
Oh, okay, there's a lot of just like retreading stuff, and the plot isn't as compelling. I think Chris Redfield's redesign and stuff grew on me. I think that they really
it's him now.
Yeah, because for a while I was like, he doesn't really look like. But I think actually he has way more of a personality. His personality is basically just a gun, but it's a personality.
He's more of a guy, I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, there's definitely plot elements I really didn't like. Fucking hate all the stuff to do with Jill. That really annoyed me.
That's weird.
I don't like Jill just looking like Samus for some fucking reason.
Yeah, it's a weird change in design, though I do know some neutral. I don't know, someone on Twitter, I remember they wrote a whole thing about this recently, and it's just like their like interpretation of like the grander narrative about, that how like Resident Evil at this point is like the most, Resident Evil 5 especially is probably like the most like overtly anti-eugenics and anti-capitalist to them, because it kind of puts it within a very blunt framework with how Wesker talks and the situations that people are put into in that game.
Yeah.
Because it's about the exploitation of like people who.
The other two antagonists as well are like basically mega evil capitalists. You got like the slimy dude. I can't remember his name, but like the guy that turns into a weird fucking giant shark thing on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, if you take it at face value, you can see there's some obvious stuff in there, and I imagine that was very intentional.
Excella as well, who she's super. If you ever want to see, if you ever want to see a really interesting take on I love looking at concept art. Excella has such a different look initially from what she then became. They really exaggerated her by the end of the game, via official version. She looked a bit more toned down and just evil business lady, and then they turned her into a Bond villain. It's kind of fucking great that she's a Bond villain, basically.
Listen, with Resident Evil 5, you probably should go, because you got guys who punch boulders out, and you've got fucking super Nazis with superpowers. You might as well go the full distance.
And that's the thing, is it's kind of interesting, because I think a lot of people say that Resident Evil games, the quality of them when you're playing the game, it has it starts strong, or there's it's pretty decent, and then has a big peak, and then eases down, where the latter half of the game is usually considered the weaker part. 5 is the opposite. The start is really boring because it's just treading over the same shit Resident Evil 4 did, and then as soon as it gets to weird dumb Wesker bollocks, and it gets more and more fucking absurd and ridiculous, to the point that you're fighting hordes of fucking lickers, or having a fist fight with Wesker, or shooting a satellite cannon at big mutated monstrosities and stuff. The game just ramps up and gets fucking awesome, and I think that's when the game's at its strongest, when it's doing ridiculous shit like that. I also think it has the most fun version of the Mercenaries, Mercenaries Reunion in Gold Edition. I think that's probably the most fun, because it's co-op.
Yeah, the co-op is probably the best one. I've got a super chair. I should probably read this. Hidden Gem Gamer again, with the Code Veronica being the best one. Interesting choice. Haven't played it. Fox definitely disagrees with you on that one, as we can see.
Yeah, big
welcome
disagree.
to your opinion on that one. But I'm happy for the $2. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. So, I think. I don't know, I guess we talked enough about 5. I do think it's really solid. I think it's nice that they gave Chris Redfield a bit more of a focus game about him, because the other games beforehand were more Chris is playing second fiddle to Claire, or I guess in 1 you can play Chris, but if we're being honest with ourselves, most people pick Jill. Most people pick Jill.
Come on.
But like, yeah.
Where do you feel it? Where do you feel it on the scale right now?
I've put it in B. I think I've put it in B, and I've put it above Resident Evil 0. Like, I'm doing my left to right rule.
Yeah.
I would say it's a stronger game than 0, but I think it has just as many problems in that, like, there's a lot of stuff that just hurts it, or a lot of stuff that's just kind of forgettable, that whenever I replay it, I'm like,
Resident Evil 5 is not as good as the original Resident Evil?
I don't think it's as good as the original. I don't know. If I'm talking the campaign, Resident Evil 1 is a better game in my opinion. I've had more fun replaying Resident Evil 1 than 5. If I add all the extra stuff, like the level of replayability, or the Mercenaries and Mercenaries Reunion, and like the Lost in Nightmares, or which was DLC initially, but then did just get added in Gold Edition. And if I'm counting Director's Cut, then I've got to count Gold Edition. Okay. Then I don't know. Maybe it is kind of a bit more. Maybe I don't know if I'm willing to put it in A, but I think I might bring Resident Evil 1 down to B and put it like in between 0 and 5 then maybe.
Okay. Maybe I think that's a worth question, because we'd probably have to limit each tier to 3 just to make it work with the list, the amount of numbers we have. So that's probably how it's going to have to be, and then we'll see when these. We're going to see with these next, because you got to think of what's coming later, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Why is your chat talking about Metal Gear? What?
I don't know. I mean, I'll talk about Metal Gear any other day that isn't today. So like, I'm not really too bored, guys.
Chris literally has an entire speech at the start of the game about how I remember that.
That's pretty wild. It's like a Easter egg, then, if you have to wait 10 minutes for it. But I mean, it sounds like Chris would be the guy to know.
Yeah.
Considering his like occupation.
And speaking of Easter eggs as well, that was something I love about Resident Evil 4, is that it had like 8 billion Easter eggs. Like,
oh yeah, and there's still people are still finding like weird shit in Resident
Evil. Well,
you know,
there's the really infamous ones like the Ashley, like if she's on the ladder and you point the gun upwards, she'll like pull her skirt back and go, "You pervert!" and tell you off.
I saw a clip the other day. This is apparently how it works. It works on Leon's vision, not like the camera angle, which is kind of interesting because you can do a suplex, and if you do it next to Ashley, she'll also do the same thing. Because if you like suplex under her.
Interesting.
Because it's on his vision of his eyes, not his reticle. Like, that's a pervert.
That's really interesting. I guess there's the other stuff as well. I love that if you shoot the lake enough times, Del Lego will jump out and eat you. That's a good one.
Good too. That's pretty funny.
Of course, killing the merchant will kill him. You can't then shop in that shop again.
Until the next cutscene, right?
Yeah, but every time you return to that specific shop, he won't be there anymore.
Which makes it's an interesting story, though, because it's like, if there are 7,000 of these fucking merchants, is it not just one?
Yeah,
is it just like
like
worms?
My theory is that the merchant shows up after Leon gets infected. So I think it's like a weird hallucinating thing because he's voiced by the same voice actor as Leon.
Really?
Yeah, the merchant and Leon.
He's also got the.
So my fun little headcanon is. Yeah, so my fun little headcanon is the merchant doesn't actually exist, and that Leon.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, and that Leon's kind of just hallucinating and just has all these weapons.
Yeah, he just. I guess I don't know. He finds them somewhere in this fucking wild place. But it is fascinating to think that way, especially with like Resident Evil 8 bringing.
The
idea.
The Duke. We'll talk about the Duke as well.
Oh shit! Does that mean the Duke is also hallucination?
We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Right. So Resident Evil Revelations.
Where's on this one?
It's all right.
I think I've only played it with you, maybe in passing once.
It's all right.
It's on like the 3DS, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think as a 3DS game, it's really good. It's quite impressive what they were able to do on the 3DS.
Yeah.
But the plot is a bit just like... I hate that they changed Jill's face. There's a bunch of enemy types in it that I don't think are fun to fight at all, or just aren't really all that scary. Some of them
still
are
kind of.
They have like
a Resident Evil 4 template, right?
It's still it's the Resident Evil 5, I would say more. It's trying to get, it's still going into like BSAA stuff, and there's like really weird enemies. There's like one that has like a chainsaw attached to its arm or something, from what I remember. Like like just stuff like that. I mean, there's some enemies I remember being really creepy. There's one that's like, because the virus is like the T-Abyss virus or something. But there's one enemy in particular where like it's the captain of the ship, and like you are like getting near it, and you can just hear like, you see like this door chained up, and you can hear like this guy going, "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday," over and over again. And when you shoot it open, he's mutated, but he still has some of his mentality left.
Yeah.
So it's like a mutated monster chasing you that actually is like talking to you. He's like screaming for help and saying Mayday and like crying for its mum and stuff like that. And you're like, oh my god, that's kind of fucking creepy. And what's interesting is the more damage you do to it, the more deteriorated its mentality goes, that by the end it starts like laughing maniacally or just yelling like specific, just like kill or hungry or shit. And you're like, oh my god, I'm like literally fighting like something that's like, I'm fighting a monster that has like the last remnants of its sanity left. That's kind of fucking interesting.
It's kind of like the the old thing from Resident Evil 1, like how you see the slow variation of the mindset of the zombie.
But like it's a boss fight now, like but like for the most part, but for the most part, it's just okay. Like I beat it once. I've never played it again. Like
I think maybe the 3DS element of it probably compromised it, because nowadays most people are playing the HD
like the PS, and the HD version. The problem is you're playing it and you're like, this feels like a 3DS game, because they have like they do it in like this episodic chapter kind of thing as well. Like there's points where you play as Chris, there's points where you play as another character. It's okay. It's okay. I don't know whether I'd even want to put it in B though.
Part of me wants C, just because I assumed that, if we're looking through the tier list, it would probably make most sense for it to be down there.
Yeah. Okay. Resident Evil 6. I like this game.
I played it with you. I remember having a very torturous time playing it though.
You didn't enjoy yourself that much. I really liked
first couple levels. Interesting ideas, but I just remember suffering because like later you get into the game, there were things about it that I remember specifically that I had trouble with, which was stuff like the game expects you to play a very specific way. Because we tried to do that experiment where it was like, all right, well, what if you don't try and do any suplexes and stuff, and the game just became unplayable?
Yeah, you have to have to do all the QTs and stuff. And I think this is when like a lot of design methodology from 5.
There is like a definitely appeal to like, it's basically gun fu suplexes all the way to the kingdom, right? And it's like ridiculous bosses, lots of content, lots of random ideas. I remember being the second player.
It's not only that though, but like things that the only way they can think to like overwhelm you as a player is to basically throw a horde of enemies at you. Like even in Leon's campaign, like which is supposed to be the scary one, like. You're still just fighting a horde of super zombies that run at you and jump at you. And
its conceit of scariness goes away very quickly, which is a bit weird considering they have 4 other campaigns or whatever it is. It's a bit like weird that they can't even like commit to like one campaign being kind of a bit more serious. Or like at least like more tense and dark.
But by the end of chapter 1, you have fought hordes of zombies and you're karate kicking them and
you get on a plane at one point to go to a different place, and the plane like, if I remember,
that set piece was fucking cool. Wild. But like and it is like a unique scenario. But then the problem is like it just feels like an action movie, and I would love to play. Whereas I would love to play a Resident Evil game that plays more like a classic scary Resident Evil game, where the setting is like a plane. Like at the beginning.
What's interesting maybe is like the ideas, execution is going to go double ways, but like I feel like that you could. There's just a lot of stuff going on there, where like I mean there was a part where there's like one mission where it's basically like a fetch quest that happens after the plane that I remember when we were playing it. Like you're in Hong Kong, I think, and you had to find some shit or something stupid.
Do you remember? You know the new Resident Evil's called Resident Evil Village.
Yeah.
So people have like memed about like what would the other ones be called if they named it like that? You know, like Resident Evil would be like Resident Evil Mansion, Resident Evil Police Station, Resident Evil City, Resident Evil like Village 1. Like Resident Evil 6 is just Resident Evil everywhere.
Because literally
your locations are like within the end of like the second chapter of like Leon's campaign, you have already done like the entirety of a setting for like any other Resident Evil game.
Yeah,
because you've done an entire city and then found an underground laboratory at the end of chapter 2 of Leon's campaign.
Yeah, it's a super globe-trotting adventure.
Yeah, like Leon.
It's one of the Uncharted games.
If I'm talking like Leon's campaign alone, you've got the university, the city, like a bus crash that then puts you into a tomb, like a graveyard, that then leads to an underground laboratory, which then leads to catacombs, which then and then after that, just that alone, and that's like 5 locations roughly. That would be like Resident Evil 1, like as a setting, or like a traditional. Then you've got like a plane. You've got the city of China, like the city streets and stuff in China. You have then, and then like, if I remember, like, you then have like another like massive boss fight on top of a train. And then like,
there was.
And then you're running across like city skyscrapers and shit by the end of that campaign. You've gone to like 9 locations.
It feels like a very 7th gen thing because Metal Gear Solid 4 also did a very similar thing where like you would jump around. It's very like I think it's at that era where it's like, well, now we have no limits. We can have because I imagine like a lot of the locations being smaller, more complacent places, more of a limitation of the hardware. Like 6th gen and the 7th gen you can go everywhere and it's fine because like they don't have to worry about like resources. You can just be all over the world. But a problem with doing such a thing is it removes the identity, especially in these games which are designed around controlled spaces and maps. That like when you remove that, you become more like literally just a globe-trotting game where everything, which is its own style, its own thing. I mean, Resident Evil 6 will be its own thing, but it was definitely the point where the franchise had like tied itself to Resident Evil 4 so hard that eventually it was like, okay, well, now we're drowning.
The bubble burst basically with that game because like. And you could tell that the way it was made, even they didn't really... You could feel Capcom didn't even really know what its fan base wanted anymore. And I think to an extent, even the fan base didn't know what the fuck they wanted anymore.
Yeah, they didn't really know.
Because I remember so many talks before Resident Evil 6 came out. Next game, have a single-player mode that's like a scary survival horror game. And a co-op mode that's an action game. It's like, you can't do both. You gotta do one or the other.
Yeah.
Like
it becomes very hard because you're basically making 2 games then, and you'll be compromised because I think some may say that Resident Evil 4 is that problem because it's like, well, we got 4 different campaigns we're attempting to do 4 different things, sort of like they are putting themselves in that position.
And I think even furthermore, I think the strongest campaign, the one that's probably the most entertaining for the most part, is Chris's campaign. Which is like because the control scheme complements being like an action game.
Yeah, I mean it's like a gun fu game. You jump around. I imagine that Chris's campaign probably would work the most. Then I don't think we've got.
There is some boss fights though that I remember just can fuck themselves. There's a helicopter boss fight that you do as both Leon and Chris, I think, and it sucks. It sucks super chat here
hard. Gamer, so I should probably. He's got his own list, so that's
okay.
Because we'll probably have to. Let's see. He's got Resident Evil 4 at the top, Resident Evil 2 remake.
That's
second,
respectable.
That's a big favorite for you. Code Veronica, Dark Side Chronicles. That's the.
We're not talking about the spin-offs, but fair enough.
Yeah.
Dark Side
I think
Chronicles.
This is just his list in general.
Dark Side Chronicles is a light gun shooter.
Light gun, yeah. It seems like pretty cool. Resident Evil Revelations 2. Didn't play that one, but I'll take your word there. Resident Evil 5, Revelations, Resident Evil 8, 7, 1 remake, 3 remake, 2, 3, Umbrella Chronicles, 6, 1. Interesting that one's so low down.
I will reserve my opinion of that list.
I will appreciate the list though. I think it's interesting to see what other people feel.
It is super interesting always. If anyone in my chat
vary so much.
Anyone in my chat that is a fan of this franchise that wants to share their like thoughts on what they think are like top or bottom and on this, feel free to. But yeah, like Resident Evil 6, I think it's a joke, I guess, in the community now, but like it kind of was a necessary evil.
Well, it definitely showed.
Because it made it clearer. Yeah, it's one of the best-selling ones. As a multiplayer game, it's fucking great. All the multiplayer, most of the multiplayer options are really fun. Like, even
if you get like the mercenaries mode, technically that game is designed for it. So like, if you want to get your friends along,
that was a game I used to play multiplayer with all the time with my mate Elsie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, like I used to play that. I used to play that with her all the time. We used to play like and with a couple of other people I met at a convention. Like we used to like do massive like sessions like on the
because you were the Resi gang because you all did the cosplay. So
yeah. It was fucking great. Like as a multiplayer game, it's really fun. If anything, potentially better than Resident Evil 5. But like the campaign is too messy.
And she's gonna be in one of these Resident Evil games. You know that, right?
Fucking.
She's gonna be
potentially. That would be sick if she ever is. I'd be way fucking down for that ever happened. But yeah, I think I'm gonna put it at the top of C. If we're doing the 3 games per category rule, I think top
I think that's going to have to work because of the numbers, but we'll have to adjust everything as we keep going through. But I don't remember what's even next at this point.
Revelations 2.
I don't know if you played that one or not.
Which is going in D. It's higher than Code Veronica, but I don't think it's a very good game. I've played it once. It was episodic initially when it first released.
Yeah,
it was an episodic game which sucked personally. I think really hurts the game in terms of its pacing. I really don't like what they did with like I maybe have to replay it again with a co-op buddy because I only played it single player, but I found it really uninteresting. It was a very bland game. I think they did Claire Redfield dirty again as well. Like the only interesting thing really in the game is like co-op, you've got Claire and then you've got a character called Moira that is Barry's daughter, and she can't fight the enemies.
Oh, okay.
So you like solve puzzles or like highlight enemies and stuff.
You know what? Maybe we'll try it sometime because that's an interesting dynamic for a co-op game. I think that would actually work really well for co-op.
Yeah.
Like with an AI, I could see that being the most annoying thing in the world.
Single player, I mean, she's fine. Her AI is like harmless. It's just not very remarkable.
Yeah, but like I think the interesting part of the game would be like the human dynamic.
I also remember
the AI can just do everything perfect.
I also remember there's like an entire chapter at one point where you play as Barry, and basically 90% of the time is spent like pushing crates and shit, which is just boring.
That's the worst thing you could have done with
also,
Barry.
like they ruined Barry, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
The only kind of cool thing is you have another Wesker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like Alex.
It's not Wesker.
It's right? Alex Wesker or Alexa Wesker or something like that. No, it is like because the Wesker lore is that there's like a whole bunch of children that Spencer, the owner of Umbrella Corps, like the founder of it, created. He created the Spencer Children Project.
Okay,
so there's all kinds of ones. Yeah.
We're starting to get the symbiote territory.
There's all kinds of different Weskers, but like she's another one.
Okay.
But yeah, she's kind of interesting as well. I actually play her a lot as the mastermind in Resident Evil Resistance because she's kind of interesting. But yeah, it's okay. It's not amazing. It's just alright.
Maybe one day we'll do the cop and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I don't have anything to say about it. We probably
now this is going to get really hard.
Yeah, because we're getting
7.
Right? Okay, 7.
7.
What are you feeling for 7? Because we've got some spaces left.
I am so glad Resident Evil 7 exists. I fucking think it's a good ass game. But
do you think it's B tier good?
Maybe if I didn't have that free rule, I'd be maybe better than 0. I would be willing to say. Because I have replayed it more times than 0, but I don't know if I want to put 0 in C. Maybe.
Well, I mean, if you only one of them can go in there, so like, is 7 a C or is?
What I'll do is I might put things there, and then at the end of it,
yeah, we can do some adjustments.
But Resident Evil 7 was a really refreshing take on, like, it was a necessary, refreshing reimagining of Resident Evil. It needed to happen. Like, I think first person was a really bold idea, and with VR, it's like, I've never played the game in VR, but I imagine in VR the game's fucking probably amazingly immersive. Like it could
be a great experience, because I think that's where it goes a lot of the time.
The writing as well is pretty compelling stuff. It's legitimately fucking really scary in places. Like, again, but it peaks so early.
Yeah, so early. The issue with that game, because it's like the weird Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff happening.
Yeah. Like, you start the game. Ooze. You start the game up. You've got like the Mia stuff. You've got the main house with Jack. As soon as you leave that house, the best part of the game is over, and it never hits that. It never hits that high again.
That's like the first 2 hours, right?
Yeah, basically, like the first 2-3 hours of the game, and then like the rest of the game is like, I hope you liked those black blob creatures from that one basement area where they were kind of scary because it was an enclosed space. Because now you're just going to have to fight them all the fucking time. And it's just going to turn into a shooting gallery. Or like...
compromised creature.
Yeah, like, it still has some moments, but like... And then on top of that, the antagonists are really fucking fun. Like, the Baker family are a really cool, engaging, interesting set of characters. And then Ethan and Mia are, like, so boring. Like, Ethan especially. Ethan just has no character. His character is, like, a fridge. That is his character. Like, he's just so boring. I like the setting, but, like, the game kind of falls apart towards the end. And I think there's a load of interesting mechanics that they have that then kind of go away after a while. Like, you know, being stalked, that just goes away after a while. Or the VHS tapes where you play them and you literally play a VHS tape and it can solve a puzzle or warn you of something preemptively.
They're interesting ideas.
And that's a great idea, but they only do it 3 times. And then, like, the DLC in that game rubbed me the wrong way really badly.
Like Chris, right?
The DLC is, like, absurd. Like, well, the Chris DLC is free, but, like, I don't even think it's... I barely even... I call him Chris Redfield in name only, because he doesn't look like Chris, he doesn't talk like Chris, and he doesn't act like Chris.
Cino, right? Cino.
He's just...
name only.
Yeah. But, like, yeah, just... It's okay. Like... There's a lot to love about that game, but also a lot...
Kind of
and I think it's really helped refresh Resident Evil. I know critically it was like a critical darling, that game.
Oh, yeah, it did pretty well, but most Resident Evil games do pretty well.
But, like, I think
it's because they got to play VR, though. Like, a lot of these critics are probably playing the VR mode, and that was probably, like, the huge novelty, because there were very few other big games that were made for VR at the time.
I still don't like the statement that people have made, though, of, oh, it's a good game, but it isn't a good Resident Evil game. No, fuck off. I feel like
that's kind of a misnomer.
It's a Resident Evil game. It still has enough elements to me to be a Resident Evil game.
No, I feel like it's a false equivalency when anyone goes, well, it's not a good X, this game, because, you know, to define what Resident Evil is as, like, that arbitrary, like, prescriptivist, it's really difficult with a franchise.
Especially when, like, it's mutated itself like that. I mean, they
all mutate.
This is, like, the next, like, fucking, like, a new evolution of the game series, right? But yeah, like, it's fine. I've played it a number of times. I really hate that there's not much to replay. Like, there's extra difficulty modes and some things to unlock, but there isn't, like...
have those Resident Evil...
there isn't, like, extra costumes or, like, wacky modes. There's just kind of, like, really fuck-off hard mode. Like, there isn't, like, invisible enemies or, like, an extra crazy game mode. Like, there isn't a mercenaries to get your teeth stuck into or things like that. There's just a bunch of DLC, and it's kind of just like weird tape minigame stuff that you can beat in like 30 minutes. And it's kind of like okay. And you got the Chris DLC, and you've got the I can't even remember Jack's brother. There's like a DLC where you play as Jack's brother. Like they're okay.
Is any of it good?
Yeah, I mean those 2 DLCs are fucking fun, but like it's just all right.
I guess there's the struggle of a Resident Evil fan with the growing pains of transition may happen with a losing of some elements that maybe would have been nice to have. I don't know. Maybe if they ever do like maybe if they ever did like a super re-release of the game, they might bring some of it back. It's hard to say.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I maybe talked enough about 7, but like,
yeah, I think
it's cool. I'm glad it exists, but like, yeah.
I mean, I think that Resident Evil 8 is, for a lot of people, seems to have recontextualized how they look at 7.
Yeah.
Now it's like the building blocks on top.
Okay, we're near the home stretch now. Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Now, I know you're a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. Oh, fuck. I don't know where to put it.
Well, this is where it gets difficult, right?
Yeah, because I was saying about, like, my 3 kings of Resident Evil, and then, like, now we got a 4th. This is the 4th. I fucking love this game. It's the.
Do you think it's better than the original?
It is.
That's where you're fighting. It's
right so hard. Let me put it this way: it is one of the only games I have gone out on my way to. I think it was my first game. I went out of my way to get every single trophy for. Like that is when I played that game for the first time, blind, like no help online whatsoever, highest difficulty setting. Like, all the way through, fucking loved every minute of it. And then once I beat it, and then did the Claire B run, I did like Claire Scenario 1, Leon Scenario 2. As soon as I did that, it was like, right, Leon Scenario 1, Claire Scenario 2, done that. Alright, how can I replay? How can I make excuses for myself to keep replaying this fucking game? Like, you know, oh, I'm gonna play it. Like it felt like old Resident Evil for me again. Like it felt like a real return to what Resident Evil is to me. Like, because like it became another speedrun game for me, and like that's a big deal.
That game. Last time we talked, you'd played like 20 times.
So the PlayStation like now has like that Spotify thing where it tells you like your like game time for every year, like for the year. My game time for Resident Evil 2 Remake was on par with Dragon Quest XI. So I literally played Resident Evil 2 Remake over and over again for the same amount of time as like a 100+ hour JRPG. Like that is how much I played it. Like it just I just love that game. Like I love it so much that when they announced Village, I got disappointed because like, oh, I just want to play more Resident Evil 2 Remake, to be honest. It was like,
unfortunately, they're not gonna make a Resident Evil 2 Remake 2, so it's not really.
Yeah. Like, but I would love them. I would love them. Like, no, earlier they were saying like people were saying, oh, they should make like a Resident Evil game where you got a single player mode and a co-op mode. They should just have 2 teams now. The like mainline game team that's doing like 8 or Village, and then this other team that's doing like different types of Resident Evil that play like Remake 2 Remake.
I think that's probably their plan now.
Because it's so good.
So successful.
It's so fucking good. Like I literally can't tell you whether I would be willing to put it above. Part of me wants to put it in S tier because I've played so much of it. Like,
well, you have to. What you're removing from
and it has that's the problem. I can't. Like, I literally can. I don't know what I would move. Yeah. Oh fuck. It's such a good game. And like, you know, like just like Resident Evil 1 Remake, they do so many things that like reinvent it that like then feel like, oh, that was how it always was. Like
it seems like a lot of the way they structure it.
But the layout of the police station, like you know, you think to yourself, oh, those flight of stairs in that lobby were always there when they weren't. But they weren't like ever, or like or like you know the fact they again with like kind of lore like explained away a bunch of stuff like, you know, Resident Evil 2, it's like, oh, it's just a weird police station. Then Resident Evil 2 Remake, they're like, oh, it used to be an art museum that then got renovated into a police station, but they kept all the art museum shit. You're like,
I mean, it makes
that makes perfect sense. Why, like, and then nowadays, nowadays people are even like, wait, it was always like that, wasn't it? It was like, no, it wasn't. But it feels like it should have been because it fits so perfectly.
The right
like,
I mean,
Oh, your mic's fucking up.
Yeah, I there we go. All right, come on, Mike. Work your magic.
You're back, baby.
I'm back, baby. It's like it's Discord. It's probably Discord. I think Discord does that sometimes. It's because Discord has its magical like fucking meter. Sometimes it'll just mute you if you're not within the its audio ground.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you could talk about Resident Evil 2 all day. I imagine the game where it goes is probably going to have to be a later one.
I really could as well.
Because it is definitely a change within the parameters of the series. So I guess, how many games have we got left now? Because I think we've got more than 13.
Two more, then because we're not doing any of the spin-offs. But yeah, like Resident Evil 2 Remake is fucking amazing. If Steve wasn't giving me this limitation, my S tier would be...
I imagine it'd be this 4 games.
2 Remake, 4 2 Remake. Like that would be the magic 4. But yeah, like it's so good. That game's so good. Sorry, I'm like gushing about it, but yeah, it's like near perfect. So yeah, I guess moving forwards, Resident Evil 3 Remake. This is the more controversial one, right? This is the one that people feel a bit more separate about. And I'm inclined to agree. It does a lot of stuff really well, but I think it has the exact same problem that Resident Evil 3 original had. It just kind of feels like an expansion pack of Resident Evil 2.
Yeah. I guess that was the position. I think isn't like a B team as well, wasn't they? Like in this, or was it?
It was a B team.
Had a lot of time to do it.
Yeah, and it's a lot of missed potential. Is the way I
it's better than the original? I think that would be really the key.
No,
you do not think it's
the
better than the
more
original?
I've played it, the more I've gone. It could be better than the original if there was more game there, but it's not. Like because the gameplay is really fun and it gets rid of all the random elements and stuff. But the main attraction of Resident Evil 3 is you're being chased by Nemesis, and that happens for like 20% of the game.
Ooh, okay.
Like,
right, I think I've figured out the numbers of our tier list. I think that there has to be a compromise made at some point. So either S tier gets 3 or another tier gets 4. I think that's how it's going to have to go. It would make the most sense for S tier to have 3.
I am willing to take S tier to have 3. And now I have to fight with myself whether I put Remake 2 or 2 on there.
Yeah, that's the game. That's more interesting, I think.
Fuck.
To actually play with.
Fuck. That's really hard. We'll come back to that. Yeah, 3 Remake is really mixed. Because I think it's better than Resident Evil 7 though. I like it more than Resident Evil 7. I have replayed it more times. I think it's more consistently fun than 7.
Okay.
So maybe like, oh man.
That means it would be in B tier.
Yeah, I think I don't like putting Revelations in D, but I will put it in D. And then maybe 7.
I mean, I think for the conceit of what they are, which is their DS games, I think
that seems a bit more fair.
If you're not exactly hot on them, I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, because
lower them down.
Yeah, because I think Resident Evil 3 like has a lot of good stuff to it, but like I remember the first time playing it, like. You get to Nemesis, he shows up, and you're like, oh my god, he's so fucking scary. He's like running at you, and he's like, he'll like jump across like the room like after you and stop you in your tracks, or like he's like yanking you towards him or shit like that, and you're like, oh my god, this is fucking terrifying. But then it's like you realize that he follows you, that like he's in like this one little paddling pool.
Oh, okay.
And then the rest of his encounters are just set pieces and boss fights.
That's kind of unfortunate. Here's how he wasn't the first.
Here's the bit where you run through the subway area and crawl through a vent. Here's a bit where you run away from him while he stands still with a rocket launcher. Here's a bit where you run away from him where he has the flamethrower. It's all just like set pieces rather than like you're exploring and doing all that good Resident Evil shit, and there is the constant threat that Nemesis will chase you. So this is why I said earlier, classic Nemesis is better than classic Mr. X. New Mr. X is better than new Nemesis, because new Mr. X is more Nemesis than Nemesis fucking is. Like,
yeah, I guess that's. I wonder why that happened that way. Maybe it's a limitation.
I have no idea. Time. And then like a big problem as well, like I have no issue with them not having Gravedigger in the game. Fuck Gravedigger. That boss was never fun, and it distracts from you and Nemesis. But the more I thought about it, I don't care about the park not being in the game, but the clock tower needed to be in the game. They needed to have that. Yeah, you just stand outside the front of the clock tower and just have a boss fight with Nemesis. And that's it. Okay. Like, and Nemesis transforms at that point. He's not even humanoid Nemesis anymore. So like,
I think the clock tower would have been.
I remember playing through the game with my dad, and like, personal diatribe. Like, my dad loves Resident Evil. He's played. Yeah. He has sat through every Resident Evil game with me.
I know he's a big fan of you.
Yeah. Right? And when we got to 3 Remake, and he saw that bit where like Nemesis never chases you again as a human, he literally went, "What?" Like, he was shocked. Like, what? Yeah. Like, that's not the game. Like, I mean, like, he went into it expecting Nemesis to chase you the entire game, and that just doesn't happen. Like, there's still, like, lots to love about it. I love the extra difficulty modes. I love some of the alternative things. Like, people got really mad about how Brad dies in the game, but I also like that it, like, you then have, like, Super Zombie Brad. Like, especially on the higher difficulties. Like, he literally... You have a segment where you play as Carlos, and he, like, chases you around the police station if you play on higher difficulties. He's, like, really fucking intimidating. You know, the extra costumes are fun, like, but there's but again, like, there's no mercenaries mode, and there was in the original Resident Evil 3, and the remake of Resident Evil 2 made sure to have all those extra game modes, or like, you know, I really like that they reinvented Carlos. He's way more likable as a character. He's like memorable.
He doesn't have much character in the original.
Yeah, now he's like quite charismatic and like, but you know, like the lab is really short. Like it's a super short area, and they recycle enemies from like free DLC of Resident Evil 2 Remake. You know, or like the gore is toned down, which also is kind of disappointing. I know, like they did it because it was easier for like. A global release if they just had the gore toned down a little, but like, and then there's like segments that are like where like you roll your eyes a little. There's like a bit where it's basically just the same. You know that set piece in Resident Evil 4 where you're in the house and you got to defend yourself for a certain amount of time. They do that. They do that in Resident Evil 3 Remake, and it is really like you're there like, oh fuck's sake, this again, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that was ever like. It's fine in Resident Evil 4. I don't know if they ever need to do it again though. I don't know if it was something that was like really needed. It's fine. It's fine.
Mitsu says, to be fair, if you know what you're doing, you only see new Mr. X for like a handful of minutes if you know exactly what you're doing, which I agree because I can do that. However, on a first playthrough. On like, for me, if I was to talk about my first playthroughs, Mr. X was like a terror. He's constantly he chases you all the way around the police station. If you play as Leon, he like chases you in other segments of the game as well. Like he's quite relentless. Like, and he feels more like a stalking enemy. Whereas Nemesis basically is like four areas. Like you got like that little city block with like the donut shop in between. It's like a handful of. It's like a really small area, and if you know exactly what you're doing, like you'll be chased by that version of Nemesis for like a minute, 2 minutes. Like Mr. X,
the name of the
Mr. X is still at least more of a presence, and also like Nemesis is the gimmick of the game, and he's on the fucking box. And like he's barely there. Like
So are we saying B tier?
I've put it in B tier. Yeah, underneath the original Resident Evil and Resident Evil 5. Because I think if I'm being honest, Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 1 are more complete packages, and that's really what hurts Resident Evil 3. I don't know if I can't remember what channel mentioned it, but if there was ever like a re-release or like a port or something, like a PS5 version or whatever, they should really just add an extra scenario to the game. Like, just like an extra segment. I don't know, Jill gets infected and has a nightmare segment where you get chased by humanoid nemesis. Fuck it. I don't know. Just some extra part of the game so that there's just more of it.
Like, they could do that quite easily. Like, they could definitely add something. It wouldn't be like the end of the world, especially the amount of re-releases most of these games have had. They've had to add extra campaigns. If 4 gets 2 extra little side bits.
So last but not least,
is this Village?
Evil Village.
We on the Village, boys.
There's going to be some recency bias, I think, for me here.
I mean, the only thing it's going to be very difficult to what would be the word? You're always going to have that when something's new and you haven't had enough time to like see how the years go by. But like, you got to take it in the moment.
I've made my decision on S tier as well. I'm going to put remake in there instead and put it above 4. And my reasoning is that Resident Evil 1 remake is like the quintessential best classic survival horror style Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And then like 4 is like the quintessential like best 4 era game, like 4, 5, 6, whatever, like game. Remake to me, 2 remake is like the best modern Resident Evil.
And that is modern. You think modern's better than the original Resident Evil 2? Is that what you're saying?
It would really depend on the day. I'd have to but like I've mentally flipped a coin about it.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
we can do that for today.
Like if I
for today.
Yeah. Like, because like if I'm talking like history and blueprint and stuff, then 2 would maybe have to go there because 2 remake couldn't exist.
Yeah,
but if I get into that, then like, do I arguably have to actually then bump Resident Evil 1 up and you know?
No, I think that's bullshit. Like, this is a fucking tier list. It's a fucking history lesson.
This is probably recency bias, but I'm actually willing to put Village at the bottom of A.
Okay, well that's. I mean, all right. What's it fighting against here? So, like, you got B tier. B tier in your mind, right? We got Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Original, and 5,
which are all like games that are like, when they're good, they're really fucking good.
Yeah.
And in the case of like 5, what elevates it is all those extra modes. And the co-op is really fun and stuff like that.
And they got DLC.
You know, Resident Evil 1 is like super iconic and very replayable. And again, like the director's cut version has a lot of replayability and extra modes and costumes and fun stuff like that. And then Resident Evil 3 is like more like the core gameplay of Resident Evil 3 is really fucking fun. Like, if you play Resident Evil 3 right after playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, like it probably feels a lot more like satisfying because it then just feels like it almost feels like an expansion pack or something.
Yeah, I guess most people weren't looking for an expansion. They were looking for
no, and like, you know, so I am being a bit fartsy about it, but like I have replayed Resident Evil 3 Remake more times than 7, 0, or 6. So like, to me, like, it has to be above those games. I think it is a better game. Like, but Village, I guess anyone be wary. I might potentially get into spoiler territory. I will try my best not to.
You've been here this long, guys. Come on. What are you expecting? I mean, I think Mitsu said here in the chat that they think that the best thing about Resident Evil 8 is it's paced very well. Nothing too long or overstays its welcome. Which seems like a worthy thing to say.
And this is what I was saying on my Twitter post, if you remember, when I talked about it. That is my favourite thing about the game. There is not, like, as soon as you get a little bit sick of that village, cool, you're going into the castle now. And as soon as you get, like, I'm kind of done with this castle, I want to leave. As soon as, like, you feel, I felt that way playing it, boom, you're doing the boss fight with Dimitrescu and moving on. You know,
would you think? All right, here's a question. Right, do you think Village is better than the original 3, Resident Evil 3? Hard question, I'm sure, but I'm curious. I'm curious if you think Village is better.
I have to replay it a couple more times to really say for certain. The thing that hurts it is I just don't like the characters nearly as much. I like all the antagonists. But Ethan Winters still has the personality. His personality has gone from being the personality of a fridge to the personality of like a fridge freezer. Like,
okay, well, that's,
you're a nice fridge freezer combo, but like, he's still really boring. Mia isn't a very interesting character either. I don't really care much about her. The villains, they're fucking great. Fun, goofy schlock.
Yeah, I think they fit that like Resi 4 sort of tempo in that regard.
And there's
they aren't Leon. Maybe that's the problem. They're not Leon though. Like Leon is like the ultimate protagonist for like stupid schlock.
It's almost like Resident Evil Village would be 10 times better if you were playing it as like Leon or playing it as Jill or something. Suddenly,
that would be pretty fucking cool.
Because like you'd then have these real personalities shining through. I struggle. Cool. I will say personally, I've struggled both with 7 and 8's controls more, or maybe not its controls, but its perspective. I'm not great with the first-person camera as well.
Yeah,
which
I guess
hurts it a little. But I love the enemy types. There's way more variety of. It is like it is a way better game than Resident Evil 7 was.
I imagine,
and it has like it's like a best of compilation of a lot of older Resident Evil stuff.
I was going to say, with the camera, though, you're probably going to get into a lot of fights with different people who would say the same thing about, like, Force camera or the original game's camera. Like, the camera system is always going to be kind of finicky for a lot of different people. I imagine most people probably are more into the first person because they're more used to it than, like, the old style cameras.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is I haven't really gone through the game on, like, any higher difficulties than hard, or like no, I don't think I've beaten it on hard yet. I've done normal and nothing else, but I've like gotten quite far on, and like that is mainly because I struggle more with the first person perspective. There are some bits of the game that I think maybe are a bit. The Moreau bit is probably the bit that comes to mind, and there is like a boss fight with There's a boss fight with Heisenberg that I'm a bit mixed about. It feels a bit gimmicky.
Yeah, I mean, well,
but like
Resident Evil after all.
But like, you know, there's some stuff that story-wise, there's some bits of the game that I actually think retroactively elevate Resident Evil 7, which is like pretty fucking awesome. Yeah, I won't go into too much detail about that though. And you know, I think there's some stuff in the story that I'm like, wait, what? Like, that doesn't make sense to me, or that's just a bit stupid. Like, and not in a fun way. But no, I think as a game, like, it's pretty complete as a package. And when you beat it, you actually unlock shit. Unlike Resident Evil 7. There's a mercenaries mode. There's a mercenaries mode in this game, which I was immediately like, fuck yes, awesome. This should be in every Resident Evil game.
I mean, it would be weird for me if they weren't, quite frankly, just because it seems like so embedded into these games at this point.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really say about the Village now.
I mean, I think you can. That's probably a pretty. I mean, we've been talking for a while. Getting late now.
Fuck me, it's 10 o'clock. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. This is definitely my fault. I need to apologize to your stream because I talk for Britain, especially about Resident Evil, so I apologize for that.
We said we'd do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It would be a good way to chill down.
So as a recap, again, I'm ignoring all the spin-off games for the most part, with a couple of exceptions. So to review, we've got D tier, Code Veronica right at the bottom, with Revelations 2 and Revelations 1. I guess it's worth saying that D isn't... The only one I would say is a truly bad game, personally, is like Code Veronica and maybe Revelations 2. C is like has some bright moments or things like that, but like overall can be a bit forgettable or a bit underwhelming in places. Like, so, you know, 6, 0, 7. B is like
this is where we're getting pretty good, right?
Pretty good, you know, Freeze teetering in between that B-C territory. But you know, like the good outshines the bad, I would say. You know, so 3, like 1 and 5, and then A is like, these are good ass games. You should probably go fucking play these games. So Village.
If we're talking these mainline ones, this is a pretty solid list for the franchise. It's always been like, it's an interesting franchise to see how people relate to each of them, just because they all have their own kind of flavor.
Absolutely,
doing their own thing. And I think that's cool.
Village 3 and 2, although 2, like on another day, 2 could be in the S tier instead of another game. They cycle constantly with me. And then S tier, Resident Evil 4, 2 Remake, and Resident Evil Remake, which, as it stands currently on this day, on the 2nd of June, is the best Resident Evil game.
What, Resident Evil 2 Remake?
Resident Evil 1 Remake.
So, 1 Remake, okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to... I mean, these things could flip at any time, because these are, like, radically different games. Each of these games that we got in S tier, right? With 4 and 2 Remake and... They're so different that, like, I guess that's just really a preference of... I guess that's kind of a good thing, that they're all kind of, like, doing their own thing. But you've got these 3 dramatically different games in the top that are, like... You know, while they're all kind of under the same umbrella, quotation marks, they doing, you know, they're all specific types of games.
Yeah.
4 is, you know, the suplexathlon that is 4. Resident Evil Remake being the classical template of the games, like pretty much done as they do, and this sort of new generation with the third person with the remake, where they're, you know, once again trying to do something else. With the formulas, they're
the thing,
kind of like a middle ground between those other two.
Yeah, and that's what I think, because I feel like Resident Evil 2 Remake is like, they successfully took that old mold of Resident Evil and managed to transition it into a third-person game that was like really fun. Like all those elements that make the old survival horror Resident Evil games magic is in Resident Evil 2 Remake to me, but now with like a modernized control scheme. Like, who knew that the best way to make zombies actually scary is to just make them actually, you know, more an actual threat, where like without compromising the controls. That like they just tank bullets, and even when you're placing headshots, all that means is there's just a chance that you'll get a critical hit, and blow its head off, than necessarily an actual fixed damage ratio. Like, who knew? Who knew?
It's at that point, it's a different kind of game, right? Because then it's like spongy enemies. So it's like the game at that point changes its dynamic. Because like with Resident Evil 4, right? Like Resident Evil 4 is all about the headshot, but then it's like, oh, but the headshot going to be early on. It's like, oh, headshots are easy win, but then it's like, okay, headshot can actually be more complicated than it's worth. And then it's actually then about melee. So like it's that kind of arcade sort of mix them up, thinking about situation.
What I find a lot though with Resident Evil 4 is it is still very much a shooting gallery for me, which is what makes me put 2 Remake and the original Remake above it. Is that Resident Evil 4, I love that game, but like I never at any point go, fuck, I need to run away from this enemy. I run into a corner of the map, turn around, get all my arsenal out, and just shoot everything to death. Whereas Resident Evil 2, whereas like the remake of Resident Evil 2, I can't do that unless I have infinite ammo. Like, I have to like plan accordingly. I have to be like, can't go into this room and just shoot everything. Like, I can just manage it, and I just need to kite everything, or like know where I'm placing myself or things like that, and that makes for and because of then elements like Mr. X or stuff, you can't just stand in the corner of a room and just be like, I'm gonna shoot everything, because Mr. X is about to just punch me in the head, or
it will be a different dynamic of the experience, because 4 is the game that 4 wants to be. It is never wanting to be a game where you can run away from enemies. Like, it's definitely a game where you want to blast through everything, because you know you want money, you want your cash, you want to clean the area, so you can go and look for more stuff to like huck to this imaginary mercenary.
So, cool. Without further ado, I mean, I think we've kind of settled on this. In terms of tier lists, I probably talked everyone. I probably talked your ear off. It's been.
I should have played more of them beforehand, probably, because I feel like some of the games I'm like, okay, well, I have no experience. It would be more interesting if I had, but I don't know, there's not much you can do about that now.
I think there was someone in the chat earlier that was like, I'm really impressed with how much Fox can actually remember of these games.
I mean, I think I said it when you were in the tour. I was like, yeah, he's played each of them like 20 times.
Yeah, basically, there's only a handful of them that I've not really played for like more than once or twice. But yeah,
it's like we've got 15. Well, this list we got here is 15 games, so that's quite impressive to play that many games that many times. Even if for some of them it's just a few times.
So, but yeah, thanks so much for the stream. I'm probably gonna leave it there because I'm really hot. Not in that way, like temperature wise, I'm really hot.
We're not both.
And I need some water. Oh, baby. But thanks to everyone that has been on my stream commenting and stuff. I really appreciate it. It's been really cool. It's just been a nice chill out time. You know, and feel free to follow Stevem on his YouTube channel.
I mean, I think you should go say hello to Fox because he does get videos on video games. That's why
I have nearly 1,000 subs now as well, which I can't believe. So you know, like
there we go. You're almost there. You're almost at the 1K standpoint.
Glorious 4-digit master race. That's gonna be me soon, baby.
Here you go. Here we go.
But yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna call it there though. So,
yeah.
Cool.
I'm getting vaccinated in like 2 days, so.
Have fun with that. Yeah, we'll have to hang out.
We'll see. Yeah, when I'm recovered, I suppose. We'll figure it out.
How appropriate! We're finishing off a Resident Evil stream by talking about vaccinations because
now I'm gonna get the T-viruses.
As we all know, the vaccinations they fixed a lot of characters' shit up in Resident Evil. What? Fucking Sherry, Jill in Resident Evil 3, Leon and Ashley technically because they get like laser surgery or whatever. They get rid of the fucking eggs.
I don't know if that's a vaccine or not.
Yeah, but you know, semantics. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, commenting and stuff. It's been really fun. Play Resident Evil. It's a good game. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye. Have a good one.
My cat says bye as well. Say bye, cat.
In a bit.
She didn't want to be
some rest, right?
She didn't want to be picked up.
Okay, that's fair. My cat never wants to be picked up.
All right, I'm off. Bye.
In a bit. You have a good one. There we go.